that behind the refined accents and the mild manners, he harbors a mean streak.
You have to look at the fact that, you know, I'm a boxer. What we do, we step into the ring and we're trying to take each other out. So it has to take a certain kind of mentality to be able to do that.
Lennox Lewis definitely has a dark side. Even though he appears to be a gentleman, he's very courtly, very elegant, but then there's that thug side of Lennox, too.
Emanuel Stewart has trained Lewis since 1995.
When has that dark side of Lennox Lewis manifested itself?
Mike Tyson is one of those fighters that has brought the dark side of Lennox out. When Lennox feels threatened and people question him, that's when he goes to the other side. And I think you're going to see that in the Mike Tyson fight.
Lewis has brutalized fighters such as Andrew Galata, Hasim Rahman, and Razor Ruddock, each of whom drew out Lewis's dark side by angering him. Mike Tyson angered Lewis with his teeth, biting his leg at a press conference in January.
What gets you angry?
Bites.
Once bitten, Lewis says he is less apt to be shy.
Emanuel keeps saying about how much you want this fight and how much you want to hurt Mike Tyson. Is that true?
Yeah, very much true. I mean, you could say that bite was first blood on his part, you know, and I'm out to get him back in the ring.
You weren't angry at him before that?
Yeah, I was angry, but, you know, that really put the icing on the cake on how I felt about, you know, getting bit. Nobody likes to get bit.
Lewis avenged the only 2 defeats of his career with knockouts. He's proved that he will fight back.
When the bell rings, do you want him angry or do you want him composed?
For this fight with Mike Tyson, the rage is already there inside of Lennox Lewis. And I need a balance for this fight. I need to rage, but it needs to be a controlled rage.
Is there any street fighter left in you?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Will we see that in this fight?
It depends. I'm a man with honor. You know, if a man elbows me, I'll elbow him back. I'm not against that. But, yeah, there's no way I'm going to sit there like a punk and get elbowed or hit low or bit and not do anything about it.
Jeremy, thank you. You're reminded, as you see him knock out Franz Botha, he lifted him up off the ground. That's how strong this man is, and now we've seen the only time Lennox Lewis has lost when he's seemingly lethargic going into the fight. When his attention is on the fight, it's a different story.
I think a good indication of just how focused and how much resolve Lennox Lewis has is when he loses and what he does after he loses. Oliver McCall was able to beat him. It was a one-punch knockout. Some people thought maybe could have gone on, maybe not. When he fought Oliver McCall, yes, Oliver McCall had other demons, other issues. But what happens is Lennox Lewis intimidates fighters and hurts them so much, he makes them look worse. Galata and Akinwande would be a good example. Hasim Rahman caught an out-of-shape Lennox Lewis, a guy who took him very, very lightly, was more impressed with being in the movie Ocean's 11 than training for the fight. Went to Africa too late, but when they got back in the ring, it was a whole different story. Lennox Lewis knew exactly what he needed to do. He knew he was the class fighter. He took care of business, and he beat Hasim Rahman. And that Rahman misstep is the one thing that could keep him out of the history books as a great heavyweight champion.
Max, you brought up the fight with Michael Grant before. It's almost like if you look back in baseball last year, Mike Sweeney of the Royals went out, beat up Jeff Weaver of the Tigers. And everyone was thinking, well, you know what, but it's Mike Sweeney. He's a good guy. It's almost like that. He's a good guy, but he can be a bad guy in there.
Well, I asked Lennox about that shot after the Michael Grant fight, and I said, you know, champ, you held him and you hit him. It was dangerous. He said, no, I didn't. I said, well, what did you do? I said, yes, you did. He said, no, I held his head where I could hit it. I mean, Lennox is such a charming guy. He knows how to treat the media. Right now, we're in a nice, comfortable, air-conditioned place, good eats. I mean, it's a lot different than yesterday. But here you see him. That's a dangerous maneuver right there. I mean, you could kill somebody like that. And we're Mike Tyson. Imagine if Mike Tyson were to do that to an opponent, the uproar. One thing I want to comment about what Al said is it's not only that Lennox Lewis avenged the losses, but no one has ever counted, no referee has ever counted 10 over a prone Lennox Lewis, and the same can be said for Mike Tyson. I've heard people question Lennox Lewis's heart, I've heard people question Tyson's heart, but every time they've ever been on the floor and the referee starts to count to 10, they're always struggling to get up and have made it just to their feet by 10. Then the referee stopped the fight, but I think it shows that both guys have heart coming into this fight.
I think one of the fascinating parts of this whole fight is you really have a clash of eras, even though they're essentially the same age. Think about where you were in the fall of 1988. Lennox Lewis was just beating Riddick Bowe for the Olympic, not you, the Olympic gold medal. He was an amateur. He was coming out at that time, and you're going to see the records of both fighters in the 80s and the 90s. At the time, Mike Tyson was 35-0. He had just taken out Michael Spinks, the undefeated, undisputed heavyweight champion of the world, completely dominant. Al, you had to think at that point, boy, what a bad time to be an amateur heavyweight just on the way up. And yet here we are, Lennox is the champ.
Most people thought that when Mike Tyson won that heavyweight champion, he'd be champion for a good 7, 8, 9 years and maybe not lose. There was nothing on the horizon, but clearly Buster Douglas and his own bad personal habits ended that era. And yes, even though they're exact same age just about, Lewis was able to dominate the later part of the 90s. And it is fascinating that these two men are the same, and yet some of the people they fought are different, although they've got a lot of people the same as well, and they come at this so differently.
I know, Max, you always say, you know, the hold that Tyson has on our collective consciousness. It was a 3-year period, 85 to 88, where he was, and you saw 37-0 in the late 80s after he left Kevin Rooney. But with Kevin Rooney, 35-0, that's what we remember in our minds. That guy, the destroyer, that flattened the heavyweight division.
Yes, I think the media puts the spin that people are just waiting to see what Tyson does next, but it really was that thorough dominance in the late 80s that's the reason why we're still interested in this guy, because we always feel like there's some sort of potential there. With Lennox, it's more just the consistency of his excellence. I mean, the guy is just consistently winning fights. I'm sure a lot of people want him to go away. He's not born in this country. He's, you know, lived in Jamaica, England, in Canada. Not really, he's not a United States citizen, and yet the guy just keeps beating top heavyweights, and so you're forced to deal with him. Mike Tyson is forced to deal with him, and by the way, for the first time in Tyson's career, he comes in as the underdog. Lennox Lewis is favored to beat Mike Tyson. It's never happened to Tyson before. That's the kind of a stature Lennox now has among smart money in boxing, as it's called.
I think you make a good point, too, because all we hear now from the mainstream media is it's a freak show, it's a freak show, it's a car wreck. There's a reason why Mike Tyson is here. He was once a dominant heavyweight champion, and he is still going to be the younger man in the ring on Saturday night. Once again, we are awaiting the news conference for Lennox Lewis. Lennox Lewis should be here just momentarily. When that happens, we will come back here to Tunica, Mississippi. There's Lennox. Oh, the real Lennox will be here, and we'll be here live as well. Mike, back to you.
All right, thank you, Brian. Yeah, it's kind of like a wedding of sorts coming up on Saturday.
What we went through last time against Hasim Rahman, where Rahman kind of dominated the proceedings, but then in the fight, Lennox just took him out so cleanly. So what you hear here, you wonder about what effect will it have on the fight itself. But you can still try to look and try to glean some sort of confidence from Lennox Lewis.
Yeah, Lennox is always a pretty confident guy because he's had so much success. There you see him with Manny Stewart, the famed, essentially founder of the Kronk Gym, great trainer, great amateur fighter. We've been working with Lennox Lewis in recent years and has tried to make Lennox more of a, kind of put the street in him a little bit, try and make Lennox a little more aggressive, especially with the right hand. Manny loves those offensive fighters, loves those punchers, Al.
Lennox Lewis not using the Clairol these days, so you see little touches of gray. Of course, I think guys with gray hair look okay, so it doesn't bother me. But Lennox Lewis is a man who, when you see him at these situations, always has pretty much the same demeanor. And I think he has the same demeanor for one very simple reason. I think the word unflappable describes him better than any athlete I've ever seen. And because of that, I constantly feel confident that he'll give you a good effort in the ring.
Again, last time against Hasim Rahman, there was the separation between the two fighters, and I did wonder for a while, is it bad not to want to be anywhere near the opposing fighter? As it turns out, no, it really doesn't matter. You put the gloves on, you go in, and how is your preparation? You would think that his preparation here would be at his all-time high, Max.
You know, I remember reading in the Muhammad Ali supposed autobiography, The Greatest, which was, you know, a lot of apocryphal tales in there, but reading the transcript from a car ride that Muhammad Ali took with Joe Frazier, and he was telling Joe Frazier that before Frazier fought Jimmy Ellis, I think it was, he went out on some talk show and he was singing on whoever it was, Carson or whatever it was, I don't think it was Ed Sullivan anymore, but Ali was talking about how the fact that Frazier was coming out singing and seemed so relaxed and almost not to care must have unnerved Jimmy Ellis. I think it was Jimmy Ellis. It's the same sort of thing with Lewis. These guys who get in the ring with him must be looking at him thinking, this guy shows no emotion. day before the fight, week before the fight, year before the fight, doesn't matter. He's always the same, and it must unnerve them. I imagine it does.
And of course, we were there as well. Al, you and I were there with Michael Grant when he came out in New York City. And one thing you could tell there was that Grant was not quite ready for that stage. It's not going to happen here, although Tyson wasn't at his own news conference yesterday.
No, which gave us no idea of how we thought he would react. But it doesn't matter because we actually knew what to expect from both these fighters. We knew what to expect from Lennox Lewis, and we're seeing it here. He's a man who is calm, never approaches fights in much of a different way. The only difference was the Rahman fight where you could tell he was so perturbed at what had happened. He was more withdrawn and into himself. He's been certainly much more gregarious coming into this fight, and by the way, has ingratiated himself to the people of Memphis in a way that surprises me and many others.
You know, it's interesting that Mike Tyson was here with a public workout yesterday, and some of his trainers got up. Stacy McKinley and Ronnie Shields were up, and they spoke to the crowd. And a lot of the local news reports here in Memphis were they were very angry at the level of obscenity that came from the Tyson camp. We barely reacted. Maybe we're numb to all this at this point, but here in Memphis, they can't believe what they're seeing, and that was, you know, that was just a small sliver of what you can get from the Tyson camp, and not even from Mike Tyson himself. Yeah, Tyson comes back here, you know, something we talked about earlier. Mike Tyson was long ago that he was the heavyweight champion of the world, the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. In 14 years, he's won 14 fights, and yet, Max, what do we think about? We think of 85 to 88. It doesn't take much to put our mindset back into that time, that era, and think, wow, this Tyson might just knock this guy out very quickly.
Well, I don't know. I think that smart money, as I said, for the first time, Mike Tyson's the underdog. I think smart money thinks actually Tyson's going to lose this fight. I think most scenarios favor Lewis. You know, I'll tell you one thing we don't expect at this press conference. We don't expect obscenity. We don't expect, you know, you hear the British accent and you think, oh, gentlemen. But no, there are guys, you know, who speak with British accents and they're not gentlemen, you know, believe it or not. But Lennox, it applies. The guy's a gentleman. You're not going to hear obscenity. You're not going to, you also won't see the most spectacular fights in the world. He's efficient, often unspectacular, and as a result of the fact that he's at times kind of, he's been described as boring in the ring, even though he's effective, and there are no obscenities thrown around at press conferences with Lennox, there's simply not as much mainstream interest in him as there is in Mike Tyson. Again, the reason that we're forced to deal with Lennox Lewis, like it or not, but whether or not it's sensational or not, is that he keeps winning. He just has had success. He's been more dominating against a higher level of opponent than Mike Tyson has for over a decade now. It's not like it's just the last couple of months.
Think of what happened the last time each man fought Franz Botha. Mike Tyson lost most of those rounds before hitting him with the right hand and knocking him out. We saw video just within the last half hour of Lennox Lewis pulverizing Franz Botha. How many conversations have you had with people, Al, where people said, oh, but he's boring, and you have to say, well, what do you want? What are you looking for?
I've never been on that bandwagon, and I find Lennox Lewis to be an absolute refreshing heavyweight champion. I make no bones about it. I like the fact that he can put a complex sentence together. I like the fact that he doesn't throw F-bombs at the world every 2 seconds. And I think he's a big punching heavyweight who has mostly scored knockouts. And for people that say, like, even, you know, the Tyson camp yesterday in that profanity-laced diatribe, and by the way, I thought it was very hosile what they did yesterday at the weigh-in. They were hinting and they said Lennox Lewis is a coward and he runs and whatever. That's simply not the case. The reality is that it's quite different than that. It's just that this is a fight of contrast, and he's a much different man than Mike Tyson.
Al, you think about right-handed punchers in the history of boxing, George Foreman, Ernie Shavers, and then the smaller heavyweights, Marciano, Dempsey, Lewis, or punchers with either hand. Who hits as hard or harder in the history of boxing than Lennox Lewis? And yet, although we acknowledge that he's the best in the world, this fight is really about the mantle being passed, should Lewis win, of the baddest man on the planet. That's a name that Tyson, a title that Tyson's held unofficially for at least 15 years now. Lennox, although he's the best, we don't perceive him as the baddest. That might change after this fight.
Yeah, part of that has to do with the fact that he does come from England. He's not a homegrown product. Only 4 heavyweight champions, I believe, that were European ever. And the fact of the matter is, he's a lethal puncher, but his demeanor in the ring and his demeanor outside the ring doesn't make you believe that he's doing it with the kind of ferocity that he is, and yet in the grand scheme, as Max pointed out, as a pure right-handed puncher, one of the best the sport has ever seen.
Pretty ferocious when you take that right hand.
For
you know,
sure.
Michael Grant and Franz both would think it's ferocious.
You got it.
You know, again, we talk about the difference between people who follow boxing on a regular basis and those who jump in for the big title fights. And once again, the perception out there, Max, let me start with you, is that, boy, once Lennox Lewis gets in there with Tyson, he's going to be scared. He's afraid of Tyson. Tyson, when he walks up to Lennox Lewis, he's going to be looking way up in the air. This is a huge, huge man.
Yeah, it's funny, the difference here in the perception between the mainstream sports fan and the hardcore boxing fan. Among mainstream sports fans are shocked to hear that among hardcore boxing fans and press, it's Tyson who's perceived as a scared one and not Lennox. They all think, oh, Lennox has got to be scared of Mike. Lennox is a half a foot taller, has a foot in reach, and he's at least 20 pounds heavier. And as I said, he's been more successful against a better level of opposition for over a decade now. Even Mike Tyson doesn't think Lennox Lewis is scared of him.
Well, there's Lennox Lewis, and again, that's more gray than I expected. I'll be honest with you, Al.
Me too.
Yeah, that's the distinguished heavyweight champion of the world. Again, Adrian Ogan, Lennox Lewis's manager, is up on the dais right now, and he's introducing people who are up there. There are more people than usual to introduce, as it is a joint cable effort, pay-per-view. There are people up there still from the different belts, because most of the belts are represented. Not that they're important. This is the heavyweight champion of the world, of course, but yet all these introductions have to be made before we get to hear from Lennox Lewis. I am interested to hear what type of mindset he is in. Going in, you wonder, is he angry for the things Tyson has said, or is he going through saying, I'm going to prove something here, that this was the Lennox Lewis era all along, whereas if Tyson wins, were we in the Mike Tyson era all along, and we just didn't know it, Al?
I like that line. That's very good. There's Lennox's mom, who, by the way, has become a local celebrity herself. Her and the Reverend Al Green spent a lot of time together at his church.
Mighty Al Green.
Yeah, absolutely. Lennox Lewis is a guy, when he's focused, he gets the job done, and that's the bottom line.
Yeah, again, there's some guys that you want to ignore, you just can't. And you can't ignore Lennox Lewis. He is a celebrity based not on the way he behaves outside the ring, but his proficiency inside it.
All right, here we go. The champ has stood up. Ladies and gentlemen, let's go to the podium right now. Here is Lennox Lewis, the heavyweight champion of the world.
Say thank you to you, Lennox, for being in Tunica, being at Sam's Town, and being the sportsman that you are. We have created a set of gaming chips, which will be very hard for people to see out in the audience. But this is a set, one for you and one for your mother, that we put together for you as a commemorative of this visit to this part of the country. And we thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Again, thank you for being here.
There, Lennox getting up, Monty Collins of the casino here at Sam's Town. Once again, Lennox Lewis, when he does get up to speak, we'll bring it to you live. We will be here. We are here live here in Tunica, Mississippi. We don't want to step away here and then dismiss what the champ has to say. It might not take all that long. There's nobody here to antagonize him. Once again, if you're just joining us, separate press conferences yesterday in Tunica, Mississippi, just down the road. Mike Tyson had an open workout, but no press conference, and so now Lennox Lewis is here. We are going to take a break right now. Again, Lennox Lewis, when he gets up there at the podium and is ready to speak, we'll bring it to you live right here in Tunica, Mississippi. For Al and Max, I'm Brian Kenny. Let's send it back to the studio.
All right, thank you, guys. I think Lennox Lewis is turning grayer, just waiting to speak. And we will hear from the heavyweight champion of the world as soon as he steps up to the mic. We'll take you right back down to Tunica, Mississippi, and hear from Brian, Al, and Max as well. Stay with us here on ESPN News. We will take you down to Tunica, Mississippi, and hear from Lennox Lewis, the heavyweight champion of the world, as he talks about his fight this Saturday in Memphis against Mike Tyson. In the meantime, let's get you updated on some other news from the world of sports. In World Cup play today.
Much perfect timing. Here is Manny Stewart, the trainer of the heavyweight champion of the world.
Thank you, Adrian. First of all, I'm very, very, very happy for Lennox Lewis. When I first got involved with Lennox Lewis, which was in '94, I made a prediction that he had the ability and potential to be the greatest heavyweight since Muhammad Ali. We're only about 3 days away from that legacy being fulfilled. Lennox has always wanted to fight the best. I have very seldom been with a fighter who has never dodged anyone. Lennox Lewis has fought more undefeated heavyweight challengers than any man probably in the history of the division. And it's very interesting when I hear people say that The only reason that they are picking Tyson is because Tyson's going to run out and scare Lennox to death. And Lennox is going to be a big, awkward kid fumbling around. This man is 6'6", really, 250 pounds, has been through 2 Olympics, gold medal winner in the '88 Olympics, knocking out Riddick Bowe, world junior champion, 3 times heavyweight champion of the world, has only lost 2 fights and knocked those 2 guys out in rematches, has been boxing nearly 25 years. And I see another little small man run out and run him around the ring. It's ridiculous. And when you speak of courage, you can go a little further. The only person that ever ran from someone is Mike Tyson. He gave up the most prestigious title in boxing, the WBC, nearly 5 years ago, rather than fight this man. If he was afraid of Lennox Lewis, seeing how has he got any better? And I think about 3 or 4 years of that time he's been in prison, whereas Lennox has been fighting the best fighters in the world. And this fight here, Lennox wanted. He says, I fought everybody on my era. I wanted to fight Riddick Bowe. Remember that he got knocked out by me in '88. He ran away. He beat Evander Holyfield twice. He doesn't even consider Evander much of a challenge. That's why he didn't do more damage than he did. Plus, he was worried about getting too close, worried about getting butted. And then he finally got this opportunity to fight Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson has been on record continually saying that Lennox Lewis is not afraid of me. In fact, Lennox Lewis has intimidated me a lot. He embarrassed me in front of my wife. She went up grabbing and talked to him, and he just looked at me, and I sat in the chair. And she should have been going up to fight with him, and then I would have joined her maybe. He said openly that he knows Lennox is not afraid of him. Mike Tyson has never fought a guy that I know of that wasn't afraid of him, that he didn't have a big problem. He's never fought a guy as good as Lennox Lewis. Also, Mike Tyson will probably be going into the ring as an underdog for the first time in his career. And if you don't think that plays on his mind, his trainers can say what they want, and they can do what they want. When Mike Tyson has to fight this powerful man who's not afraid of him, who's been fighting the best fighters in the world while he's been incarcerated, and even after he got out, he went on a world tour fighting all over the world, everywhere but America. Lennox has been doing more in America than he does, living, training, and fighting in America. Even though he could easily fight in his own country where he had every advantage, he chose to fight, train, and do all of his business in America. It's more American than Mike Tyson has been for the last few years. And I give him credit for that. This fight here, when it was finally made, and we had every reason to get out of the fight. The actions of Mike and other things leading into it and possible protests. Lennox says, no, I want to knock Mike Tyson out. He's the last one. I want to finish him off. That's why this fight is being made. Because there was a lot of reasons for everyone, including me. I don't even really feel that Mike Tyson deserves to be fighting for the heavyweight championship of the world, personally. But Lennox Lewis himself chose to take this fight. And he's very determined to not just be, he wants to knock Mike Tyson out. And I just can't see any way that this man is going to do anything with this fighting machine that I have here. Whereas 5 years ago, Mike was still pretty good, and he was afraid of Lennox then. Lennox is right now, even though they're at the same age, don't ask me why, his general acknowledged that Lennox is fighting better than ever. Mike Tyson is fighting second-rate fighters. But nevertheless, everybody is holding on to this image of Mike Tyson 12, 13 years ago. They don't want to let that go. That Mike Tyson is gone. This is the best today, and one of the greatest heavyweights of all time. And this record would be appreciated after he's gone. I don't think today they won't, because he doesn't make himself so available with the media. He's very reserved. But I train him, I know this man is phenomenal to train and one of the finest human beings I've ever dealt with. And that's why I chose to stay with him rather than go with Mike Tyson a few years back when I could have made $3 million for a fight. But Lennox Lewis is worth being with because of the character in addition to the talent that he has. And I have not been disappointed with coming with him nearly 8 years ago now. And I think you're going to see a great fight on the 8th. I don't think it's going to be marred by a lot of illegal tactics, unlike everyone thinks. I think the guys, forget the craziness that Mike Tyson has with him. He's got 3 good boxing trainers now. I have a lot of respect. Most of them I'm very close to. Mike McCallum, who doesn't get much recognition, but was one of my champions I managed to train, and also Stacey McKinney, who's been there all the time, is a very good boxing guy and one of my ex-fighters also and ex-trainers. And Ronnie Shields, I've known since he was 14 years old when I used to take him on a lot of trips as an amateur, and he and Thomas Hearns used to fight a lot. So I know the staff. He's got a good quality staff. They're going to get Mike back into, they have, I think, got him back into a boxing mode now for the first time in years. And I think you're going to see the most fierce and determined and the best that he can be, Mike Tyson, come out in this fight. The fight has the ability of not only being a slugfest early, but possibly going to the late rounds, because I can see possible problems with the styles of each guy, because Mike has traditionally always had problems with tall fighters. I don't know how he can get any better. And Lennox may have problems possibly finding Mike because of his little bob and weave style. And it could end up being a great fight that going down the stretch that the judges may be a big factor in this fight. But I think it's going to be a very explosive fight. It has all of the elements that make a good fight, and that primarily means emotions and determination, not so much skills. Now, I'm really looking forward to it, and I've been in a lot of great fights. This is one that's really got me nervous. I'm waking up in the morning, shadow boxing myself, anxious. I'm just getting all excited about it. I like this. I love big-time fights. I like competition. I don't like easy fights. Lennox is the same way. That's why it's very easy to beat us sometimes in what are perceived to be easy fights. But this is where Lennox goes to his best. When Lennox feels threatened, as he felt in the fight with Razor Ruddock when they said he was overmatched, and we saw what happened there. And also he fought a guy named Galata, which everybody, including my brother James, said, oh, he's too rough for Lennox. Lennox is a gentleman. Galata is a brawler. He's an alley fighter. He'll do anything. Lennox just looked at me when I was wrapping his hand and said, what did James say? Okay. And you saw what happened to Galata. And he also felt threatened when you had a trainer that talked about him very bad, named Don Turner, who said that Lennox was a coward. All you have to do is back him up. And he had a big, strong guy, bigger than Lennox, named Michael Grant. And you see it's what happened to him at the end of the first round. He was dragging Grant back to his corner, picking him up off the floor. And you saw when Rockman dissed him real bad prior to the last fight. You see what happened to Rockman. When Lennox Lewis feels threatened, that's when he's the most dangerous. And in Mike Tyson, we feel confident, but Lennox feels threatened, and so Mike Tyson is in very much danger of ending up going out of that pyramid point or whatever it is up there with a vicious uppercut. At this point in time, there's not much more I can say. I'm going to call up Adrian to come up here and then bring my champion up.
Okay. Thank you very much, Emmanuel.
Thank you, Emmanuel.
Well, Manny Stewart with a very strong answer, I believe, to Stacey McKinley's rant
I've been with
on Tuesday.
Lennox Lewis for 8
Those
years.
strong words.
He's
He said,
not
look what
only
happened
a
to him. Again, you're picking guys up off the
athlete,
canvas, anybody who
he's not
disses
only
the champion Lennox Lewis.
Infinitely more eloquent than Stacey McKinley's diatribe the other day.
Interesting, too, Max. He said he's the last one. And he's right. He had every opportunity to get out of this fight and go fight Chris Bird, the #1 contender.
Yeah, you know, Emmanuel Stewart, one of the greatest trainers I think ever. I think he's a boxing genius, but he also knows how to instill confidence in his fighter. I mean, Lennox is hearing all of this, and I think that Stewart has gone a long way in terms of shaping Lewis's psychology as a fighter over the last several years.
Going to make a point there. When we arrived here,
For those of you who are watching ESPN2, by the way, we're going to send you right now to Wire to Wire. If you're on ESPN News, we're going to stick around for the heavyweight champion of the world.
Now, I'd like to introduce you.
Again, we are here in Tunica, Mississippi. Brian Kenny, Max Kellerman, and Al Bernstein. Lennox Lewis is being introduced as we speak. Here is the heavyweight champ.
Thank you. Thank you all. Boy, you know, Manny said it all. He didn't really leave too much for me to say. But just let me share something with you still. You know, in 1983, when I was boxing for the World Junior Championships in Santo Domingo, I needed some sparring. And we searched all over the place looking for some sparring partners, but we couldn't find any. But we heard about this young cat up in New York named Mike Tyson. So me and my trainer got on the road and we drove up to Catskills, New York, to a little gym, like an old fire station. And there was a guy in there, his name was Mike Tyson, and another guy named Customato. And we went in there and we said, okay, well, we're gonna help each other, you know, do some sparring. Anyway, the first day when we stepped into the ring to do some sparring, you know, this cat rushed across the ring. He was coming at me, he wanted to knock me out, you know. So I gave him my Muhammad Ali impression, and I was dancing around, boxing him. And, you know, we were going at it pretty good. We went at it pretty good for like 4 days. And Mike Tyson never knocked me out in those 4 days. He did give me a fat lip, but I gave him a bloody mouth. So we were pretty even on that exchange. But, you know, after all that sparring, you know, Custom Model did say one thing that always stuck in my mind. He said, one day, you and Mike Tyson will meet. You know, and, you know, time went, and I didn't think it was gonna come true, but rest assured, it has come true. It's evident that it's here, and just like back then, it was pretty explosive, and I predict today, this Saturday is gonna be real explosive the same way. The only thing is, I'm not just gonna give him Muhammad Ali impression. I'm gonna give him the Lennox Lewis impression. I'm a pugilist specialist, and I'm gonna go in there and do what comes naturally. I'm very focused, very positive, can't wait, and looking forward to this. So I'd like to thank all you guys once again. That's all I have to say. All the talking's done. Time for some action. Thank you.
All the talking.
Interesting. Lennox Lewis bringing up the Catskill Boxing Club and Custom Auto said one day you will meet. Again, Lennox Lewis only 10 months older than Mike Tyson, yet they will finally meet. Your impressions of what Lennox had to say?
Well, I thought Lennox Lewis was the way we always see Lennox Lewis. I think he brought up the historical reference because it's been whispered around here that somehow long ago Mike Tyson did something bad to him. Again, a psychological ploy to make sure the world and Mike Tyson knows he wasn't intimidated. I thought he and Emmanuel Stewart laid out their position better than any statesman I've ever seen.
Yeah, Manny Stewart with strong words if you're just joining us here on ESPN News. By the way, Mike Tyson at the age of, I guess that's 16, was a great fighter. I mean, that Tyson might be better than this Tyson now, Max.
Yeah, well, I don't know about that, but certainly within a few years from there, you used to watch Mike in 1983. I didn't. You see him now. He's not the fighter he was certainly in 1988. But the most interesting thing that Lennox said then, to me, is time for some action. That's a line I know Al's favorite hip-hop artist from several years ago, from Be Real. And the thing that from Cypress Hill, his name was Be Real, is to that time for some action. And I think that that's Lennox, you know, he be real. I mean, it's time for some action. He doesn't talk much, he doesn't cause a lot of controversy, but he be real. Be real in the ring, and Tyson and everyone will find out on Saturday night.
No, you're right. Tyson at about 16 wasn't at his peak, but about 18, that guy is not losing to many people in the history of the sport. We are here in Tunica, Mississippi. Again, Lennox Lewis and Manny Stewart are done, but not done here for the day. There will be a public workout here at Sam's Town.
Unscarred by Mike Tyson's teeth, he played chess, the cerebral game he loves. If this fight were a chess match, what would be your first move?
Oh, definitely I would move my pawn out, and first, pawn is like your soldier, so that you could say that's like a jab first in a fight. So definitely keep those jabs moving.
Do you think Mike plays chess?
No, he doesn't have the patience for it.
Do you wish Lennox didn't play as much chess?
Lennox Lewis plays chess. I don't like it. But for this fight here, Mike Tyson has got him out of his chess mode, so to say. So I won't have to worry about the chess playing.
Emmanuel Stewart has tried to make Lewis more aggressive, but he still often fights like a man studying the chessboard. How do you straddle the line in this fight between aggressiveness and recklessness? How do you bring the fight to Tyson without opening yourself up?
As far as being aggressive, I'm definitely, you know, I never fight the same fight twice. I'm going to go in there and do what comes naturally.
With their contrasting styles, this fight is in many ways like a great chess match. Only Boris Spassky never bit Bobby Fischer. In Tunica, Mississippi, Jeremy Schaap, ESPN.
Jeremy, thanks. Lewis and Tyson ranked 4th and 5th, respectively, on the all-time list for wins in heavyweight title bouts. Lewis is 13-2-1, while Iron Mike is a win behind him at 12-3, with a belt on the line. Joe Louis tops the list at 26-1, including a division record 25 straight successful title defenses. Coming up on ESPN.
We're worried Mike would start running through the streets looking for little children to eat for dinner and stopping at a strip club on the way home. Either way, today the heavyweight champ stepped to the mic.
I always expect the unexpected, you know, looking looking at this past Saturday's fight, I understand why man got bit. You know, he's bringing an extra facet to the game, a headbutt. So, you know, I don't expect Mike to do that with me.
Maybe a little Grecian formula there for Lennox. He still has time, but we don't. We're out of time. I'm Patrick O'Neill.
Thank you very much. We're back here in Memphis. We've tried those ribs, Max. Pretty good. Back here in Memphis for the heavyweight championship of the world Saturday night. And we are ready to talk to the trainers of the combatants tomorrow night. Manny Stewart has been with Lennox Lewis, the heavyweight champion of the world, since 1995. He's had a very impressive reign. Manny Stewart, one of the tops in the business. Ronnie Shields has had Mike Tyson for less than 3 months. Is it enough? That's one of the questions that we ask right now. Brian Kenny, Max Kellerman, and Manny Stewart, and Ronnie Shields. Ronnie Shields also the trainer of Vernon Forrest, the welterweight champion of the world. Ronnie, let me start with you. Is that enough time to get a guy ready for a fight of this magnitude?
Of course it is. You know, boxing is boxing. You know, like I always said, you know, if you in this game and everybody know what they're doing in this game, then it shouldn't take that long to get somebody to know who, you know, what they're doing.
Ronnie, you got the guy who's really the biggest draw in boxing right now, but he's going up against the best fighter in the heavyweight division over the last decade or so. How are you preparing him for that?
Well, you know, Lennox Lewis is a great fighter. We're not going to take that away from him. But Mike Tyson is the best fighter in the world today. And, you know, always has been, always will be.
Are you saying that because he said he quit fighting 10 years ago or so? And I've heard a similar quote to that from Tyson in the past, but now this time he's in shape. He does look in better shape, but is the feeling around camp that this is the best shape he's been in since when?
Well, you know, in the last 10 years, you know, I mean, he haven't fought the guys that, you know, you would call the best fighters in the world. But, you know, once you get in training camp and you start training these guys, you know, everything comes from training. You know, nothing, it doesn't matter how busy you've been in, you know, in boxing. So, you know, you just got to do what you got to do.
Manny, I mean, obviously you've done a great job with Lennox. He's been the best in the world and vastly underrated for his reign. Do we vastly overrate Tyson because of what he did 85 to 88 still to this day?
I definitely feel that we're still looking at Mike Tyson of 86, 87, 88, and people don't want to let that go. They're still holding on to that Mike Tyson. But I think for this fight, based on the fact, and I have to give credit to Ronnie Shields, and he's also got Stacey McKinney, and also Mike McCallum. He's got 3 good boxing minds in his camp. So I think they're going to take him to a level that he has not been in a long time. But that's still not going to be good enough. You don't forget, he gave up the WBC championship nearly 5 years ago because he wouldn't fight Lennox Lewis. And I don't think he's gotten any better in that 5 years where Lennox has been fighting the top competition. When he does fight, and a lot of the time he was not even fighting, period, has not fought that level of competition.
Manny, I've heard you talk about what great boxing guys Mike Tyson has nowadays in his corner, but then you add, you know, but I trained all those guys at one point or another. Almost like it doesn't matter how many Obi-Wan Kenobis he's got in the corner, you're Yoda. So tell me, Yoda, what are you bringing to the fight that these other guys aren't bringing to Mike Tyson's corner?
Well, I don't know. You know, I know all of the guys. I've trained and managed Mike McCallum and also Stacey McKinney, and they also, Stacey was the trainer. But this is still one of my favorite fighters, particularly as an amateur. From 74 to 76, he was the most phenomenal amateur that I saw in a long time. But I think that the experience that I've had in big fights, but more so than that, Lennox Lewis himself is an exceptionally gifted fighter. And it's old theory, a good big man is going to beat a good small man. And I believe that's what it's going to come down to.
What I'm asking is, do you think you have any advantage? Because, in other words, did you teach them everything they know, but not everything you know type thing, Manny?
No, I don't know. I don't think it's good. I think a lot of this is going to come down to Lennox right now. This is the fight that Lennox Lewis wanted. He made this fight, nobody else. Even after the altercation in New York, when everybody said, hey, you know, the fight should not be made, and HBO, Lennox says, I want Mike Tyson. I've been chasing him. He's ran away, gave up his talent to get forward fighting me. Every time he gets on TV and hollers, I want to eat Lennox Lewis. The kids, I want to do this. Then he finishes up with, but I need 2 more fights. I'm not ready for Lennox Lewis. So Lennox wants Mike Tyson, and this is going to be the final fight in his destiny, so to say. And he'll knock out Mike Tyson. There's no doubt about it.
All right, Ronnie, respond to that. Go ahead.
Well, you know, Emmanuel's a good trainer, you know, but you got to understand, this is boxing. The fighter has to fight. You know, Lennox Lewis had to get in there with Iron Mike Tyson, and that's what you have to look at. You know, we could do all this talking and say he's going to do this, he's going to do that. But you got to remember one thing. Go back to the history of boxing, and Mike Tyson is a giant killer. You know, nobody knows how to fight tall guys except for Mike Tyson. And you'll see, you know, he's going to knock him out.
You disagree with that, Manny?
Mike Tyson's always had problems with tall fighters. My fighter, Tony Tucker, we go to
beat him, though, man. He beat him.
I mean, no. He hasn't never destroyed Mitch Green. Let's look at his history. He's always had problems with tall fighters.
But
nobody with the talent of Lennox Lewis.
He beat him. That's the thing.
Now, let me tell you something more than that. He's never fought somebody who can knock him out. Those were tall guys, but not with the talent of punching power.
Well,
I'm going to get your mic for you, man.
In all fairness, I know Mike Tyson is the most dangerous opponent, punching-wise, that Lennox Lewis has ever fought.
Yeah, I've heard Teddy
and I give him a lot of credit. He's still more dangerous. But Mike Tyson's never fought nobody that can knock him out in one round. And Lennox has shown that he has did that on occasion, too.
I've heard Teddy Atlas say recently that Lennox Lewis should beat Tyson, but he has to fight a perfect fight. One mistake, fight over, because he's been knocked out twice by one punch by guys who don't hit as well as Mike Tyson with either hand. Does Lennox Lewis have to fight a perfect fight, and if so, how do you get him to do that?
Well, Mike Tyson, I have a lot of respect. I'm a big Mike Tyson fan myself. And I think that Lennox, to beat Mike, has got to be assertive. He's got to apply pressure. Nobody's going to beat Mike Tyson by outboxing him, running from him. He's going to have to take a chance of getting hit and force his issue on Mike, which means it's going to be a dangerous fight. I think that this fight is going to be very explosive early. I think that Mike Tyson's punching power has not left. I think he's regained his interest and some of his speed. But I still think that Lennox Lewis is going to win, but Lennox is going to have a tough test, and he's going to have to really take a chance in winning this fight. It's not going to be a safe fight. You're not going to beat Mike fighting safe.
And you got to be happy to hear that. It's going to give your guys some chances.
I'm going to tell you like this. When the bell ring, if they come out like this, it's going to be an early night. If Lennox go left or right, he's going to last a little bit longer.
Ronnie, what do you tell him? First 45 seconds, everyone thinks it's going to be, you know, bombs away. What do you tell Mike as he's going out?
Bombs away, bombs away.
Really?
That's it. If Lennox comes right at him, of course, he has to, you know, he's going to go straight at him. You know, we're coming straight at him. And so, you know, of course, we're going to do a lot of simple things, you know, to get to him if he could start going left and right. But if he comes straight at Mike Tyson,
on the other hand,
we're going straight at him with bombs.
On the other hand, Ronnie, he's coming right at a big guy who can punch with long arms. Frazier Foreman, shades of. You worried about it at all?
Nobody in the history of boxing is going to stand up to Mike Tyson and fight with Mike Tyson.
All right, Ronnie, Manny.
Hold on.
All right, this is it, though. Last thing, go ahead.
Let people hear what you're saying.
You was in the other corner when you saw Lennox do it to your boy Galata, who was supposed to come out and punked him out, too. So you saw the wrath and the fear of Lennox Lewis when he's challenged. So don't think that he can come out and run around and be a big faggot. You know, that's not going to happen.
Oh, Galata is not Mike Tyson, though, either.
Right. No.
We're all out of time. Ronnie Shields, Manny Stewart, thank you very much, everybody.
Nobody's like Mike Tyson.
Programming note here on Friday Night Fights. And again, we appreciate it. Ronnie, Manny, thank you very much.
The following is a special presentation of HBO Sports, the network of champions.
Heavyweight champion Lennox Lewis and Mike Tyson have circled each other for years, vying for supremacy in boxing's glamour division without ever facing off in the ring. June 8th, with tempers hot, Lewis versus Tyson is finally on. Over the next half hour, we'll take an in-depth look at one of the most talked about matchups in years. In the aftermath of the January news conference melee, Lennox Lewis emerged with a bite on his leg. We'll hear from the champion as he speaks in detail about the bite and how it affected his preparations for a uniquely dangerous opponent.
When somebody bites your leg, you look down to see who's biting your leg, and I seen Tyson biting my leg.
For Tyson, the press conference bite just the tip of the iceberg as Iron Mike attempts to turn revolting behavior into an art form.
Look out now!
I want his brain to come in contact with my fist.
Though 6 years removed now from his last heavyweight title, Mike Tyson continues to command media and public attention. We'll examine our enduring fascination with Tyson as he continues an unparalleled public saga.
Let's be honest, that's why people are watching this fight. They're watching it to see what morbidly could happen.
Trainers Teddy Atlas and Tommy Brooks join us to share their views on how they think the big showdown will play out. Brooks was Tyson's trainer for his last 6 fights. And we'll visit with Evander Holyfield, the only man to face both Lewis and Tyson twice. It's the countdown to the heavyweight title fight, years in the making, bringing you inside the ropes for expert insight on the battle between 2 of the dominant champions of their era. Lewis versus Tyson is finally on. Hello, I'm Jim Lampley with HBO boxing analyst Larry Merchant, and we welcome you to this preview of the most eagerly anticipated heavyweight championship fight in 5 years since Mike Tyson fought Evander Holyfield the 2nd time in Las Vegas. Poetically enough, the 2 fights are joined together, not at the hip, but at the teeth of Mike Tyson, who ended the first one by biting Evander Holyfield in the ring and almost ended this one by biting Lennox Lewis at a news conference. Larry, the major boxing states, Nevada, California, New York, all rejected this fight because of Mike Tyson's bizarre behavior in and out of the ring. So are we headed to Memphis for a prize fight or a circus act?
How about both? It is a heavyweight championship fight, and one that has been anticipated for a long, long time. So many years that it almost seems like celebrity boxing by now. Mike Tyson being the ultimate bad boy celebrity. The ring announcer should be a Carney Barker. Step right up, ladies and gentlemen, fans and voyeurs, and watch the former heavyweight champion of the world explode or implode. You pays your money, and you takes your chances.
Indeed, and the general expectation is that a landmark number of us will pay our money and take our chances. Maybe not as many as for the ear-biting fight, but many more than for Lewis's 2 unification fights against Evander Holyfield. Is it the primal magnetism of an indomitable force of nature? Is it the boxing cult longing for a simpler, more intelligible, blunt force heavyweight world? Or is it just plain old prurient interest that won't let us let go of Mike Tyson?
I'm the most brutal and vicious and most ruthless champion that ever been.
Controversial.
I want your heart. I want to eat his children.
Socially unacceptable.
1,000 years from now, Hitler's going to be...
And relentlessly...
Kick Lennox mother ass.
Unabashedly...
That's how you and your ass.
Obscene.
I normally don't do interviews with women unless I fornicate with them.
Mike Tyson continues to dominate headlines, just as he once dominated the heavyweight division.
He certainly has notoriety. Unfortunately, most of his headlines are now made in ways that have nothing to do with what he's best at.
Today, public fascination with the man known as Iron Mike far transcends the 4 sides of the ring. His private and public life constantly in turmoil, which mesmerizes a curious public.
He's a show unto himself. Apparently he lives right on the edge. I can't think of anybody in the history of boxing who's been quite like him.
I'm the biggest fighter in the history of the sport. If you don't believe it, just check the cash register.
Our fascination with Tyson began 16 years ago when he exploded on the heavyweight scene, filled with overpowering fistic rage and an intimidating presence.
And we have a new era in boxing.
Tyson was one of those rare heavyweights who could intimidate people, like a Sonny Liston or George Foreman.
There's no fighter like me, and I can beat any man in the world.
The only thing he could do was he could punch.
But that aura of invincibility was ripped from his shoulders in 1990. The night a 42-to-1 underdog named Buster Douglas separated Tyson from his senses and his crown.
What an uppercut by Douglas, and down goes Tyson.
No longer boxing's best. The kid from Brownsville spiraled out of control. His deeds and misdeeds chronicled, his first divorce, a national television festival, and then his front page headlined rape conviction.
We have all of these sort of dimensions of unraveling that we see, and it sort of intrigues us because many of our lives don't resemble the chaos and drama, and it's some way of us in a voyeuristic way of being fulfilled in some ways.
But chaos followed Tyson back into the ring, and several of his fights turned into theater of the bizarre.
Second Holyfield fight, I mean, it's a rare time you can see a professional athlete have a mental breakdown in public.
Then he gets in against Orlin Norris. He knocks him down. He gets in with friends, both, and he's trying to break his arm. The Lou Savarese fight, I mean, he was decking everybody. I mean, he had Savarese out, he had the referee out, he had everybody. In the old days, the fascination with Tyson, was how fast is the knockout going to come? Now the fascination is, when's the train wreck going to come?
Tyson doesn't see it this way. He believes many people view him as a legitimate anti-establishment figure, giving voice to those who have suffered at the hands of society.
Let everybody know that from Brownsville, South Central, anywhere, even the Aryan Brotherhood guys in Indiana, who don't have anybody that loves them because they've been in prison and they never had anything. They can do some shit, man.
I think some people are still in his corner, no matter how dysfunctional he is. I think there's some people who still pull for the old Mike Tyson.
But most watch out of morbid curiosity, wondering if Mike Tyson will unravel and self-destruct one more time in the ring.
And they're going to keep their eyes only on Tyson. What's he going to do next? Is he going to bite him in the leg? Is he going to kick him? Is he going to pull a pistol out of his trunks and blast him? Is he going to club him with an axe that he's hidden in his sock?
They're going to learn to respect the barbarian king.
He's Godzilla to most people.
I'll take your life. That's what I do.
They see everything they're afraid of.
I'm the greatest ever and will always be the greatest ever.
But when he loses, there's a large portion of the world that feels things are right with the world.
I've seen the most vicious and most cruelest and coldest white people in the world. They accept me. He can't stop me. Him.
That's why he continues to sell tickets and cause people to watch him fight, even when he's past his prime.
And tickets he has sold. He carried the promotion, making it the largest live gate in history. Now, with all eyes on Tyson, can he carry the fight as well?
I'll give my best to destroy him. I just want to put my hand through his head and in his brain. I want his brain to come in contact with my fist. I want to damage his brain.
On June 8 against Lennox Lewis, for better or for worse, the focus will again be on Mike Tyson. Can he deliver another explosive knockout or just another explosion? Larry, Tyson's handlers, to use the concept loosely, insist he's no psychopath, just a great promoter who behaves the way he does to sell tickets. Any truth to that?
Tyson once said that he never had a real friend, and this seems to prove that sad admission. Real friends would try to help him, not apologize for and enable him. But judging from his purses, the marketing strategy of rape, felonious road rage, cannibalism, and raw gangster rap seems to work. We're here, aren't we?
Indeed we are, and if we weren't, we'd surely ante up for the pay-per-view. But Mike's unpredictability in the ring, couldn't that be a competitive factor if it bothers Lennox Lewis?
Tyson has so little control of his rage that it could bother Lewis. But look at it like the knockdown pitch in baseball. Some batters are intimidated by it, become tentative. The good ones are steeled by it, become tougher. We'll see what Lewis is made of.
Indeed. And that question, exactly what Lennox Lewis is made of, has been at the center of debate in the boxing world for 10 years now. To some degree, it's a mystery Lewis has fueled by allowing the public eye to find him only when it cared to, as opposed to seeing his title as a mandate to promote the sport. In the days after the January 22 news conference melee at which Tyson did or didn't bite him on the thigh, some general reporters were surprised at Lewis's refusal to enter the discussion. But boxing writers weren't surprised at all. Only after the fight had been laboriously relocated, new contracts written and executed on all sides, would Lewis finally open up about what happened in the brawl on Broadway.
He should fear everything about me. He should fear the fact that I don't fear him. He should fear the fact that I'm the best. I'm at top of the food chain, baby. That doesn't mean he should bite me again.
The infamous thigh bite press conference has had an effect on Lennox Lewis, but not the one Mike Tyson may have hoped for.
Heavyweight champion of the world, Lennox Lewis.
When they started to introducing Lennox and giving him all of the big praises as a, champion of the world and three-time champion, I think Mike just snapped.
He rushed over to me, threw his hat on the ground and marched over to me with a wrinkled face. And then my security stopped him from getting close to me. At that time, he took a swing at my security, and then everything just unloaded after that.
Lennox actually hit Mike as soon as he got close to him, and I think he hit him again before they actually crashed to the floor.
While me and him were wrestling around on the ground, he bit me on my leg. That was real shocking for me, because I'm not used to getting bit, especially by a man. Both fighters, there's no honor in biting somebody, and obviously he's not an honorable man.
After admitting to the bite, Tyson recanted, claiming he took responsibility only only to meet public expectations. But Lewis subjected his leg to DNA testing.
Just to prove that he's the one that bit me, you know, they tried to use the excuse that, oh, anybody could have bit me because there was so much going on. And I'm saying, no. When somebody bites your leg, you look down to see who's biting your leg. And I seen Tyson biting my leg. First I said, you know, I don't really need this, you know, why should I fight a guy that wants to bite? But then I said, you know, he beat me on my leg, I need to get him back. So the best place to get him back and the best stage is in the ring. So you could say he'd draw first blood. So that really enticed me to really train hard to really get him back.
Lewis says he is motivated by Tyson's antics, not scared by them. But his opponent's volatility has been a source of uncommon concern for the champion.
The only time that Lennox has ever questioned me about the possibility of a fight being canceled was this fight. When he asked me once, he says, between you and I, you think this fight's really going to come off? I think Mike's going to do something, end up having the whole fight canceled. I says, no, I don't think so.
And when Lewis finally steps into the ring with Tyson, he'll be prepared for more than just boxing.
Mike Tyson has a bully mentality. So, you know, when things aren't going his way, he's going to resort to doing something against the confounds of the rules. Our main focus is not to get bit, to punch him if he gets into range of my ears and keep him back.
I think that Mike's going to go through with this fight. I think he's going to be very well prepared. And I think he's going to come out and attack Lennox with more intensity and viciousness than Lennox has ever been attacked with in his life.
All important fights where I find that there's that situation where I could get hurt or this person may win, you know, always brings out the best in Lennox Lewis.
So the champion is more determined than ever to beat Tyson because of the melee at the press conference. But Lewis's reasons for wanting this fight run much deeper than the bite marks on his leg.
A lot of people still hold Tyson in such high regard. They haven't really been giving me my props for such a long time, and I think this is my defining fight for them to give me my props. A lot of the questions that they've asked about Lennox Lewis, whether his stamina is good, whether he has a great chin, whether he can last. I've answered all those questions. You could say Mike Tyson is the last question I need to answer.
It's not always easy to answer questions in boxing, as Lewis found out when he thought he'd beaten Evander Holyfield in their first fight, only to end up with a draw. Among the three dominant heavyweights of the past 15 years, Holyfield went to war the most, having fought both Lewis and Tyson twice apiece. He's gotten the closest look, and he sat down to talk with Larry about the fight.
The fight. Who wins? Why?
Tyson gonna be aggressive, and it's Lennox fight like he accustomed to fighting, then I think Tyson wins.
Can he fight the in-your-face, face-down the bully kind of fight that you did?
Well, he can, but the point is, you know, it takes heart to do that because everybody knows that Tyson throws thundering punches, his hands are a lot quicker, so you have to have the heart to do that.
Can we agree first, Evander, that you have a dog in that hunt? That if Tyson beats Lewis, you're more likely to get a third shot at him than Lewis?
No. I think with either one, there will be some kind of problem one way or another.
I've read where you said that Lewis was at least partially at fault for the fracas that resulted in him getting bit. Is that true?
Well, yes, I feel that it is, because in heavyweight bouts, that's the first time I ever known that a heavyweight would bring a bodyguard with him to make sure that the other heavyweight don't attack. I don't say what Tyson did was right, even getting off the podium and walking up to him, but the fact is that he wasn't wrong by himself.
Evander, over this last decade, you fought Riddick Bowe 3 times, Tyson and Lewis twice, Foreman, Mercer, Michael Moore twice. Mike Tyson has only fought of the elite heavyweights of this time, you, twice, and twice he lost. Why is he considered a great fighter?
Well, that's someone else's opinion. And, you know, I think for all that he had accomplished beforehand, people say he was the greatest fighter. You know, he was a technical fighter back then that a lot of people was afraid of. I felt that he was one of the best heavyweights. Now, from 1996 to 2002, no, he hadn't shown anything, but have nobody asked him either. So when this Lennox Lewis fight, it would prove something to everybody because he getting a chance to fight a person who can fight.
We've come to appreciate that in Mike Tyson's early days with legendary trainer Customato, much of the day-to-day in the gym teaching of Tyson was provided by Teddy Atlas, who went on to train his own heavyweight champion, Michael Moore. Teddy joins us now, as does Tommy Brooks, who trained Tyson for his last 6 fights. First, a quick visit inside their minds to see how they view this fight.
Tyson gonna do what he gotta do. He'll go out there, bombs away, desperate early, maybe even before the bell rings.
Lennox needs to jump right on him, right off the top, and get some respect from him.
Lewis has to draw a line in the canvas. What you're doing is force Tyson to come in. And when Tyson comes in, pom, pom, nail him before he can get into your punching range. Or, better put, before he can get into his punching range.
Lennox is an extremely good jabber. He throws that right off the jabs, real nice. It's going to be a tough night for Mike if Lennox decides to fight long range.
Nah. Doesn't work that easy. Because if he just stays defensive too long, Tyson will be exploited where he's weak. He doesn't handle pressure real well. And he's a good puncher. And if you leave a good puncher in the fight, staying brave, sooner or later, boom, your house is going to fall down.
One shot, he may not get up. That's all it takes. Was he lucky?
The advantage to fighting on the inside plays into Mike's hand. Mike has to be all around the guy. I think he needs to make a direct line at him and then veer off, firing as he goes. If he doesn't use that pendulum movement and fire off his movement, he's going to be in trouble.
He's got a real good chin, better chin than Lewis. Nobody's talked about that. I think that might be his biggest strength. The 2 guys that knocked out Lewis and put him into the unconscious already in his career couldn't punch as hard as Tyson and not as hard with either hand as Tyson could punch.
It's all in the fighter's mind. I think if you can hit a guy in the head with a brick, if Lennox made up his mind that he's not going anywhere, he's not going anywhere.
Mercer pounds away. And a great right uppercut by Lewis.
Tyson lives off intimidation. He's hoping that Lewis will buy into a lot of this stuff, this languaging that he's doing to scare him. If that doesn't work immediately, Tyson is already weakened.
Which Lennox shows up? Does the Lennox that box show up, or does the Lennox that go right after the guy and show up?
Tyson can make several mistakes and he can still win the fight. Lewis can't make one.
I think the single most significant fact in this fight is if Tyson's going to be in shape or not. I think Mike realizes this is the last hurrah, this is the last step. If he's not successful, he's finished.
We bring you back to the studio now, where the 2 men who provided those insights now join us. Teddy Atlas, for the moment, trying to train Michael Grant back into heavyweight title contention. Tommy Brooks, not at this moment working with the top flight heavyweight, but he will be soon. You can bet on it. Gentlemen, let's start with this. We all know the scenario by which Lennox Lewis wins a decision. We've seen it many times. I haven't heard anybody talk about the possibility of Mike Tyson winning this fight in a decision. Could it happen, Teddy?
Well, like that rental car commercial, not exactly. But you know what? There is a little bit of a chance. The chances of Monty Hall, remember from Let's Make a Deal, if he shows up in Lennox Lewis's ear and says, let's make a deal, he gets hurt early, he survives, and then when they get inside, he makes those silent contracts that Tyson loves. He even loved them when he was at his top of his game, where he would guide guys to go into submission in a real kind of quiet way. Put his hands behind the guy on the inside, and the guy would grab his hands to get a free ride. If that happens, then we could get a decision. That aside, I don't really see it.
Tommy?
I don't see it going to a decision, no kind of way. Somebody's going to sleep. I think that Lennox has something to prove in this fight, and I think that Mike is after one of these 3-time championship of the world rings, and I just don't see it happening.
So, because of the unanimous expectation that Mike has to win by knockout, probably by early knockout, everybody's telling Lennox, including his trainer Emmanuel Stewart, you have to attack, You have to assert yourself. Is Lennox being goaded, Tommy, into fighting a fight that isn't the one he customarily prefers?
I don't think so. I mean, if you look back at the Galata fight that he had, if you look at Michael Grant, when he stepped right to those guys, you saw what happened. And I think, as I said, he's trying to make a statement in this fight, and I think that's what he's going to do. Knowing Manny, he's going to send him right after him.
You agree, Teddy?
There's a fine line. You want to go punch that schoolyard bully in the mouth, and then all of a sudden he don't talk so much. But when you go to throw that first punch, you don't want to get caught with the first punch. I think that he should draw a line in the canvas, there's no doubt about it. And let's not forget physics over here. Tyson does have to come to him for there to be a fight. He has to.
You said a fascinating thing in the piece. You said if Lennox Lewis makes up his mind not to get knocked out, he's not going anywhere. Is that another way of saying that if Lennox has mastered the mental side of this event, Mike doesn't really have a chance?
You could say that. You could say that.
Teddy?
But then on the other hand, you got to think about Mike. Mike's been to the big dance on many occasions. He knows what he has to do.
Can he fight without drugs, whether they're prescribed or otherwise? Can he be stable?
I think so. Matter of fact, I never knew when he was taking his medication or not. I mean, that wasn't in my business, you know. I'm his trainer. That's what I was doing.
You know, that's a good question. I think the better question would be, should he be fighting without medication? That might be the better question. Nevada didn't allow him to have a license. That's why he's in a place called Tennessee. Why didn't Nevada allow him? Because they felt that other doctors had documented themselves on record of saying that this man is not fit to fight unless he's on medication. And we don't know whether or not he can compete in a proper way on medication. So the real question might be, should he be fighting without medication? Maybe Lennox Lewis should be asking that.
Tommy, who's scared of whom?
I don't think either one of them is scared of either one. I think that Mike has always said that he respects Lennox, and I think Lennox respects Mike as his ability as a fighter. He may not respect him as a person or as a human being, but as a fighter, he has to. There's no getting around that.
You said Lennox can't make a single mistake, but even near the peak of his career, Mike went the distance with Quick Tillis. He went the distance with Mitch Green, Tony Tucker, Ribalta until the last 10 seconds. Is Lewis worse than those guys?
No. Bingo. That's where you get a decision. Those guys made silent contracts. Once they felt the power, when they got close, Tyson puts his hands behind them, they grab on, and you have a little bit of a tango. But you have a silent deal. You know, you asked the question before to Tommy, is Tyson afraid of Lewis? That's a good question. I don't think he's afraid of him. I think he's just afraid. I think he's afraid of himself. What's not there?
Who wins the fight?
I hope for the sake of decent people out there, and I don't want to be too corny over here, but for the sake of civilized society out there, I hope Lewis wins it. No, really, because, again, I'm not trying to be Father Flanagan.
Wins it, but who is
I don't want
going
to be
to
Father
win?
Flanagan, but I think that it would be terrible if you could behave that way and you can win. It almost validates that kind of behavior to those people. It's a dangerous fight for Lewis, no doubt about it. But I believe in some good things still in this country. I'll take Lewis.
Me, myself, I'm pulling for Mike. I've always been a Mike fan. Just because I don't work with him, I still love the guy. I'm pulling for him. But logic in my mind, I'm looking for Lennox to knock him out early.
All right, gentlemen, thanks very much for your time. We appreciate it. Well, at the sports books in Las Vegas, Lennox Lewis is about a 2-to-1 favorite in this fight, and some expect those odds will go down in a late surge of Tyson money. So you have to figure boxing writers don't bet, because we polled 20 of them for their predictions on the fight, and 19 picked Lewis by various forms of conquest. George Kimball of the Boston Herald, Steve Springer of the Los Angeles Times, both forecast a Tyson disqualification. The only Tyson voter, Wally Matthews, late of the New York Post, picked Mike by a first-round knockout. Which is logical, Larry, if, that is, there's any logic at all which can be applied to an event so unusual it's almost hallucinogenic. The Alice in Wonderland of heavyweight championship fights. Your take?
I give Tyson more of a chance than most. The reason, the best possible outcome for boxing would be for Lennox Lewis to win decisively. But the worst possible things frequently happen to boxing. Maybe it's just my worst fears, Jim.
Well, now to put an irresistible spin on the phrase devil's advocate, I'll argue the opposite, that the reinfusion of Mike Tyson's drawing power into the heavyweight division would be one of the best things that could happen to boxing. So think of that as an unintended benefit, Larry, if the sky falls in Memphis, as you suspect it might. Well, this Saturday night, it's Lennox Lewis versus Mike Tyson, pay-per-view, the heavyweight championship fight everyone has been waiting to see. And on June 22, it's the rematch of 2000's Fight of the Year when Eric Morales and Marco Antonio Barrera square off on HBO pay-per-view in a featherweight grudge rematch.
This has been a presentation of HBO Sports, the network of champions.
It's over. Lennox Lewis got his revenge.
A screwdriver, and down goes both up. That's all it took. One shot, he may not get up. Both are stumbling around. 8, 9, can he make it? It's over. It's over. Mike Tyson has returned.
The two dominant heavyweights of their generation finally meet. Lewis Tyson making history. Hi, I'm Gus Johnson. When talking about a heavyweight championship fight of the magnitude of Mike Tyson versus Lennox Lewis, what better place to be than historic Gleason's gym? The likes of Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier, George Foreman, Sonny Liston, Floyd Patterson, Larry Holmes, and Mike Tyson himself have all trained here over the years, as Gleason's gym has provided a huge piece of boxing history. Well, on June 8th, fans will get an opportunity to see even more history when Lennox Lewis, the champion, takes on Mike Tyson, the challenger, in Memphis, Tennessee. Lewis, Tyson, a match made in heaven, right? Well, as a matter of fact, no. For the most part, it was a match made in the offices of the executives from HBO and Showtime.
We try to make Tyson Lewis going back to the first quarter of 1996. And for a variety of reasons, that fight was never made.
Lennox wanted desperately to fight Mike Tyson in order to prove in his era he was the champion and he was the heavyweight champion of the world. And he felt as if he never fought Mike Tyson, then he couldn't establish that as his mantra.
Ross Greenberg, the president of HBO Sports, and myself sat down over lunch.
Might have been a breakfast that turned into a lunch.
We recognized this was a fight that needed to be made, a fight that the fighters wanted to have happen. It was a unique opportunity to bring two of the biggest heavyweights in the category together.
And then slowly but surely, through a lot of months and agonizing negotiations, we've come to an agreement to put this fight on.
Consumers have been clamoring for this fight to happen. Who else in the heavyweight category do people want to see?
So we're hoping for a big event for boxing. Boxing needs it.
This really will define who in history is the predominant fighter of this time period.
We're hoping that they tune in and they see a really, really great fight with Lewis winning.
As HBO's voice of boxing for the past 15 years, Jim Lampley has seen quite a bit of both of these fighters and quite a bit of boxing history as well. Jim, how does this fight stack up against the many memorable heavyweight championship fights you've seen in the past?
Well, Gus, a fight must meet two qualifications, basically, in order to join the relatively short list of truly historic heavyweight championship events. The first of the two qualifications, Lewis Tyson has met. That's a big media buildup that takes the fight to an audience far beyond the limits of the boxing world. Qualification 2 is that something memorable happens once the two fighters are in the ring.
They come along about once in every generation, these heavyweight championship fights that reverberate beyond the ring ropes to rock the culture at large. Jack Johnson versus James J. Jeffries, the demolition of a misguided racist crusade. Jack Dempsey versus Gene Tunney, years in the making and with a controversy to follow for decades. Joe Louis versus Max Schmeling 2, the cathartic all-American revenge annihilation of the Nazi ideal. Joe Frazier versus Muhammad Ali 1, still the undisputed heavyweight champion of heavyweight championship events. Muhammad Ali versus George Foreman, uniquely exotic and the greatest, most satisfyingly unexpected victory. Larry Holmes versus Jerry Cooney, for the all-too-obvious reason. And then along came Mike Tyson, whose career and public image have transcended the boxing cult for 15 years now. He hasn't previously fought Lennox Lewis, so the impact of Lewis-Tyson is measured by the length of time for which Tyson has dominated boxing's public face with his deeds and misdeeds, and the roughly parallel period during which Lewis has become the sport's most competitively successful heavyweight. Is it as big as any of its predecessors listed here? History and pay-per-view returns will tell.
Coming up after this, we'll take a look at some of the verbal and non-verbal fireworks that have fanned the flames of this matchup.
My style is impetuous, my defense is impregnable, and I'm just ferocious. I want your heart, I want to eat his children.
One by one, they all went down. And now it's down to this. Lewis Tyson is on pay-per-view. Don't miss it Saturday, June 8th. Contact your pay-per-view provider to order. Where will you be when history goes down?
I'm a Tyrannosaurus, man. I'm a tyrannical titan. There's no way he can beat me.
I'm the best fighter of this era.
There's no way. I refuse to be beaten.
He should fear the fact that I don't fear him.
I'd be happy if this fight was a no-hold bar and we just went for it.
He needs to be taught a lesson.
On June 8th, the talking stops and the fighting begins. Where will you be when history goes down? Lewis Tyson is on. Live on pay-per-view. Don't miss it Saturday, June 8th. Contact your pay-per-view provider to order. One by one, they all went down. And now it's down to this. Lewis Tyson is on pay-per-view. Don't miss it Saturday, June 8th. Contact your pay-per-view provider to order. Where will you be when history goes down?
I'm a Tyrannosaurus, man. I'm a tyrannical titan. There's no way he can beat me.
I'm the best fighter of this era.
There's no way. I refuse to be beaten.
He should fear the fact that I don't fear him.
I'd be happy if this fight was a no-hold bar and we just went for it.
He needs to be taught a lesson.
On June 8th, the talking stops and the fighting begins. Where will you be when history goes down? Lewis Tyson is on. Live on pay-per-view. Don't miss it Saturday, June 8th. Contact your pay-per-view provider to order.
Lennox Lewis versus Mike Tyson, a confrontation that feels like it's been building for years. The two dominant heavyweights of their generation have been on a collision course. Finally, they meet. Destination Memphis, June 8th.
I think he's strange in one sense. I feel sorry for him in another sense.
I just want to put my hand through his head and his brain. I want his brain to come in contact with my fist.
Personal comments I don't think are needed in the sport of boxing. I think he's a dirty fighter. I've seen him do a lot of dirty things, throwing elbows, you know, headbutting people, trying to break people's arms.
He's been talking about me, degrading me, and saying I'm this, saying I'm that. My style is impetuous, my defense is impregnable, and I'm just ferocious. I want your heart, I want to eat his children.
Yeah, but I'm not into the biting and all that.
Lennox thinks that I'm afraid of him. I really don't think he has any fear of me whatsoever.
He should fear everything about me. He should fear the fact that I don't fear him. He should fear the fact that I can punch him and knock him out with either hand. He should fear the fact that I'm the best. I'm at top of the food chain, baby.
I'm a Tyrannosaurus, man. I'm a tyrannical titan. There's no way he can beat me. There's no way. I refuse to be beaten.
I just look at Mike Tyson as a cartoon character. He has no honor. He's ignorant, arrogant. He's stupid, and he needs to be taught a lesson. And my right and left hand will definitely teach him a lesson.
I just want to be remembered. This, that. I just want to be remembered.
If it seems that Mike Tyson has been dominating the heavyweight scene for close to 2 decades, well, it's because he has. In 1985, Mike Tyson won his first 15 fights, all by knockout. A year later, he became the youngest heavyweight champion ever with a second-round TKO of Trevor Burbank.
I know I'm the best ever when it comes to my punching skills.
In '87, a win over Bone Crusher Smith gave him a second belt.
I've been born for this. I'm bred for this. I watched them all. I watched all the greats. I watched their best points. I watched their weak points. And I have to be better because I came after them, and I watched all their mistakes.
Then a win over Tony Tucker made Tyson the undisputed king.
Champions don't retire. We fight till we're beaten. Real champions don't retire with the belt. What's the purpose of your job in the ring? You're nobody in the ring. You have to finish. Real champions finish on their shield, on their back.
In '88, Larry Holmes was dispatched in 4 rounds.
In order to be a true champion, true fighter, you have to commit yourself. And in committing yourself, you stand a chance of me killing you.
Another former champion, Michael Spinks, was gone in 91 seconds.
This era, the greatest fight ever existed. When I finish this game, they'll never stop talking about me. And the only reason they stop talking about me is because I'm not a corporate man, so to speak. I didn't fit in with society standards.
But on February 11th, 1990, Mike Tyson was shocked by James Buster Douglas. 6 years later, after regaining a piece of the heavyweight championship, Tyson lost consecutive fights to Evander Holyfield. Since 1997, Tyson, arguably bigger than boxing itself, has recorded 4 wins and 2 no contests. And now, 16 years after first becoming champion, Mike Tyson attempts to make history again by regaining the heavyweight title. Next on Lewis Tyson making history, Lennox Lewis on the road to his defining moment.
I'm a Tyrannosaurus, man. I'm a tyrannical titan. There's no way he can beat me.
I'm the best fighter of this era.
There's no way. I refuse to be beaten.
He should fear the fact that I don't fear him.
I'd be happy if this fight was a no-hold-bar and we just went for it.
He needs to be taught a lesson.
On June 8th, the talking stops and the fighting begins. Where will you be when history goes down? Lewis Tyson is on, live on pay-per-view. Don't miss it, Saturday, June 8th. Contact your pay-per-view provider to order.
One by one, they all went down. And now it's down to this. Lewis Tyson is on pay-per-view. Don't miss it, Saturday, June 8th. Contact your pay-per-view provider to order. Where will you be when history goes down?
I'm a Tyrannosaurus, man. I'm a tyrannical titan. There's no way he can beat me.
I'm the best fighter of this era.
There's no way. I refuse to be beaten.
He should fear the fact that I don't fear him.
I'd be happy if this fight was a no-hold-bar and we just went for it.
He needs to be taught a lesson.
On June 8th, the talking stops and the fighting begins. Where will you be when history goes down? Lewis Tyson is on, live on pay-per-view. Don't miss it, Saturday, June 8th. Contact your pay-per-view provider to order.
While Mike Tyson has been making headlines both inside and outside the ring, Lennox Lewis has not exactly been plying his craft in obscurity. He has won, unified, lost, and re-won the heavyweight crown, leading up to what undoubtedly will be the defining moment of his boxing career. From 1989 to 1992, Lennox Lewis won his first 21 straight fights, 19 by knockout. Mike Tyson likes stats, but it was the 22nd win in a row, a second-round KO of Donovan Razor Ruddock that put him on the heavyweight map. Awarded a title belt Riddick Bowe had dumped in a trash can, Lewis successfully defended the championship 3 times before being stunned by Oliver McCall in 1994. But Lewis eventually fought his way back to a title shot, reclaiming his belt 3 years later against an ambivalent McCall. Lewis methodically defeated 4 challengers before twice fighting Evander Holyfield in 1999. The first bout ended in a controversial draw. The second, a Lewis win, unified the title. Then, in 3 consecutive fights, the heavyweight champion dispatched hungry, yet overmatched opponents. Until last year, when he took on Asim Rahman, who stunned boxing with a 5th-round KO of the champion in Johannesburg, South Africa. 7 months later, in a rematch, Lewis regained the title with a 4th-round KO, doing his part to set the stage for what could be the defining moment of Lennox Lewis's career. Coming up, Gil Clancy will show us what each fighter's strategy should be. But first, we'll find out who you like in the big fight.
You know what? I wouldn't want to mess with either of them.
Like Tyson is angry. I would take Tyson.
But he can't go the distance. That's his downfall right there. Lennox, he could go the distance.
I think Lennox Lewis is Mike Tyson all the way.
Regardless of his reputation of biting someone's ear off, everyone makes mistakes.
Lennox Lewis knows how to box, and Tyson knows how to fight.
Mike Tyson used to be tough, but I think he's Lewis's edge.
I have to go with Mike.
Lennox Lewis is going to win because Mike Tyson is way past his prime.
I think Mike Tyson in 3.
Lewis is going to win.
Order to order.
Well, we know what the fighters say they will do to one another, but what do they actually have to do when they step inside the ring? To shed some light on the strategy, let's bring in Hall of Fame legend Gil Clancy and Frederick Agdanika, a young heavyweight amateur here in Brooklyn, New York. Okay, let's look at some strategy. Frederick will play Lewis, I will play Mike Tyson. What does Lennox Lewis have to do to be successful in this fight?
Well, he has to keep Mike Tyson on the outside by using a left jab. Keep Mike on the outside all the time. Don't get discouraged. Just keep using that left jab.
Now, if Mike Tyson does get inside, what does he have to do?
He should grab a hold of him and walk him. That's a weakness of Mike Tyson's. He lets fighters walk him on the inside when he should use his strength and try to punch on the inside.
Now, in the past, fighters have been able to frustrate Mike Tyson. What's the best way to frustrate him if you really want to frustrate him?
Exactly what I said in the beginning. Keep him on the outside, use that left jab, and make him reach to throw punches.
So make him reach?
When he reaches to throw a punch, then he's vulnerable. You can nail him with a good straight right hand.
So we've talked about Lennox Lewis. Now, Mike Tyson. Gil, he's a shorter fighter, 5'11", taking on a taller man with a great jab. What does he have to do to be successful?
He has to use a lot of feints. Make Lewis throw that first jab, try to make him miss, and when he finally misses, Mike should go right inside, throw both hands to the body. That will open up the head, and then he's going to finish off with that big punch.
Now, you don't think Mike Tyson should jab. You think he should actually wait for Lewis to throw the first punch.
Make Lewis throw the first punch. You have to remember that Lewis's body is attached to his hand. And if he throws the first punch and Mike makes a miss, then Mike's going to be able to hit something on the inside.
Something like that?
Yeah.
Well, Gil, Lennox Lewis fought a similar styled fighter when he faced David Toole, who, like Mike Tyson, has a devastating left hook. He picked up something from the 1970s fight between George Foreman and Joe Frazier when Foreman beat Frazier for the heavyweight championship. What was that strategy?
Well, George Foreman was the biggest, stronger, taller guy, and he kept pushing Joe back, pushing that left shoulder back so he couldn't get rid of that left hook. And he just kept steering him around the ring and nailing him with punches.
Now, is there anything that Tyson can do if Lennox starts doing this to him to offset him pushing this shoulder?
Well, the only thing he can do is stay low, try to make a miss, and then nail him with those punches on the inside.
I'm a big Mike Tyson fan, man.
Mike Tyson because he's great.
If he can get inside that jab, which I think that he will, he'll get opportunities to. If he does, look out.
Mike Tyson, 5 rounds. Guaranteed.
Lennox Lewis in 8 rounds.
Lennox Lewis, because he's smooth. Lennox Lewis. Mike Tyson hasn't won a fight since 1988 against a legitimate opponent.
Mike Tyson?
I don't want any ear biting. I don't want to see any of this. I don't want to see any, below the belt.
Give up, mate. Don't turn
Give up. Retire.
You're going to get hammered.
No biting, I hope.
Mike, one right could end your night.
I'm probably the wrong skater to make a boxing prediction, so I'm just hoping for a good fight with clean judging.
You know, it's all about confidence, and maybe Lennox Lewis is more prepared, but Mike Tyson seems to have it mentally.
Mike Tyson's going to win because he's a good boxer.
I think Lennox Lewis is going to win the fight. To me, he's a better fighter.
Lennox Lewis is going to win because Tyson deserves a whipping.
I think definitely Mike Tyson.
Lennox. He's taller, his arms are longer. He has a much longer reach than Tyson does.
Mike Tyson by knockout.
The only problem about him is too tough to love.
Mike Tyson's going to whip the bottoms off of you. Absolutely. Thank you.
Our panel of experts predicts the outcome next.
I'm a Tyrannosaurus, man.
To be joined by a talented panel of boxing experts. On my left, Steve Farhood, a Showtime boxing analyst, and also the voice of boxing on HBO, Mr. Jim Lampley. And then there is the legend, Boxing Hall of Fame trainer, Gil Clancy. First of all, fellas, I'd like to ask, who do you like and why? We'll start with you.
I like Lewis big. For some reason, a lot of boxing people don't want to seem to acknowledge that Mike Tyson's prime was more than 12, 13 years ago. I think Lewis will start slow, cautious. Once he gets into it, once he lets his hands go, I picture him knocking Mike Tyson out.
Gil?
I like Lewis in the fight, but I think that Lewis has to hit Tyson early and hurt him early to put him in his place, because if you don't do that, Mike can be very, very dangerous.
Jim?
I think at the end of the day, Lennox Lewis has every conceivable logical advantage. The style favors him. Competitive backgrounds favor him. The psychological entry into the fight favors him. But Mike Tyson is a totally unpredictable fighter, and he does have tremendous punching power and hand speed, even at this late date in his career.
And Jim, you don't think that Mike Tyson fights really well against taller fighters, and many people think that he does.
That's a long-standing myth that Mike does well against bigger guys and somehow cuts them down. Long before he won the heavyweight championship, in his fights against James Quick Tillis and Mitch Green, he demonstrated that he had difficulty finding answers against a guy who was 6'3", 6'4". Buster Douglas was the prototype. Lewis is the best of all of the tall stylists that Mike will have been in the ring with, and he's had difficulty with most, if not all of them.
And Gil, Mike Tyson, during his prime, had two great attributes, his power and his great reflexes. He had unbelievable head movement. He hasn't used that kind of head movement in his last 10 or 15 fights. Is that something that you can get back as you get older?
I don't think so. The age is the thing with the reflexes. When you get a little older, your reflexes slow up a little bit, as I know, you know. And I just don't think Mike will have the reflexes that he had 10, 15 years ago. But you have to remember, talking about all the great fights of Mike Tyson, there weren't that many. I mean, Quick Tillis, as Jim mentioned, was a tall guy who hit Mike early in the fight. And in all of Mike's fights, if he gets hit early, he's not the same fighter.
And I think that's a great key that Gil mentions. Which Lennox Lewis will show up? If you see the aggressive Lennox Lewis, who came out and attacked people like Hasim Rahman in the second fight, or Andrew Galata, or took advantage of a Michael Grant who came in and made a big mistake against him, that guy, I think, wouldn't have too much difficulty with Mike Tyson. But the cautious, waiting Lennox Lewis, who goes in and waits for something to happen, the guy who fought Zeljko Mavrovic for 12 rounds, the guy who showed up in the first fight against Rahman, that guy would give Mike Tyson a much bigger chance than he ought to have.
Lennox is a thinker. He's a chess player in there. You know, he's got a puncher's style, but a boxer's mentality. And you talk about Tyson's reflexes not being what they were, no doubt. At his age, you lose something. The axiom is that the power is the last thing to go. And Lennox Lewis, at the age of 30-something, is not going to develop Jake LaMotta's chin either. That, to me, is the intrigue here. It's a long shot that Mike lands the big shot. But if he does, boom.
And it could happen because of exactly what Steve said. Lennox thinks way too much. He's way too cautious. I think if he totally believed in his abilities and said to himself, I'm too big, too strong, too good, too quick, too experienced, I'm going to blow this guy away, he would go in and do so. But if he talks himself into believing that Mike is dangerous, which I think he will, he'll make Mike dangerous.
So for the record, Lewis, Lewis, Lewis.
Lewis, 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 and if anybody, the three of us over the last few years have been to a few big fights in our time. I will say this as a parting thing. I like Lewis, I like him big. If anybody who's at that fight ringside denies having butterflies before that opening bell, they're lying to you.
Lewis? Lewis KO5 with my heart in my throat because anything could happen, but logically, Lennox ought to make Mike make a mistake and knock him out.
I think Lewis will control the fight with his jab, bust Mike up with the jab, and then land a couple of big right hands, probably stop him somewhere between the 5th and the 10th round.
And I'm going to go on the limb and say Tyson, because eventually he's going to catch up with Lennox Lewis. He's going to hit him on that glass chin, and it's going to be Mike Tyson, your heavyweight champion of the world. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Gus.
Thank you.
Steve Albert, ringside in Las Vegas. Sorry we couldn't be there with the panel of experts. I'm here with a man who agrees with Gus, and that's my partner on Showtime Championship Boxing, Bobby Ches.
Well, Steve, I look at it this way. Lennox Lewis has maintained for years that the one-punch knockout at the hands of Oliver McCall was a fluke. And yet, it happened to him again with Hasim Rahman. One punch, one right hand, and Lennox Lewis lost his world championship a second time. Mike Tyson hits harder than both of those men. He throws more punches than both of those men. He's more aggressive, and he's also faster. And therefore, I deduce that somewhere in the first 8 or 9 rounds, Mike is going to catch up with, break down Lennox Lewis, and probably knock him out.
And it's interesting because Mike Tyson could step into the ring for the first time in his career as the underdog. There's no disputing that Tyson is the biggest name in boxing and is the #1 pay-per-view draw. And this is the fight that everyone wants to see, regardless of what people predict the outcome to be. We've covered Mike Tyson from ringside for over 10 years. And, Bobby, despite Tyson potentially being the underdog, he still has the ultimate puncher's chance, yes?
He certainly does, but it's not just the ultimate puncher's chance, because many people don't like Mike Tyson. They've translated that into he can't fight anymore, or he's not as good as he once was. Maybe he's not in his prime, but he punches well. He's very aggressive. He has a swarming style. He's hard to hit cleanly on his way in. Very strong, unusual power. He's a phenom.
Well, we've heard what the experts think, and we've also heard what the non-experts think. We've seen what the fighters have to do to win. In fact, we've covered all the bases. But the beauty in this most basic sport is that on June 8th in Memphis, Tennessee, when the fighters enter the ring, then and only then will the outcome be determined. Because when the fighters answer the bell for round #1, all the hype, hyperbole, hysteria, and history will take a back seat. It will simply come down to come out fighting, and may the best man win. Lewis, Tyson is on.
Championship heavyweight bout between Lennox Lewis and Mike Tyson. Lewis is 10 months older than Tyson. Tyson will turn 36 at the end of the month. And it's Lennox Lewis enjoying a 6-inch height advantage and a 13-inch reach advantage. When both fighters stepped on the scales, Lewis weighed nearly 15 more pounds than Tyson. Incidentally, both camps expected their fighters to come in at about 5 to 6 pounds lighter. Apparently, there was a problem with the scale. 5 of the last 7 Mike Tyson fights have ended in controversy. Rules of the bout now with unofficial ringside scorer Harold Letterman.
And now Lennox Lewis and Mike Tyson will fight for 12 rounds using the rules of the Association of Boxing Commissions. There is no standing 8 count, no 3 knockdown rule. Only the referee can stop the fight. In case of an accidental headbutt, we go to the scorecards after 4 rounds have been completed, and you cannot be saved by the bell in any round, including the 12th and final round. Fran.
This is the moment the crowd here at the Memphis Arena has been waiting for. Here comes Iron Mike Tyson, born and raised in the Brownsville section of Brooklyn, New York. For the first time in Tyson's 55-bout career, he will enter the ring as an underdog. Lewis is an 8-5 favorite.
But when he enters the ring, Fran, he'll find out that he is surely the favorite in this crowd. And entering the ring, this fight has already exceeded the expectations of many just a short while ago.
The city of Memphis learning on a trial and error basis.
Tyson is the underdog because Lewis is the champion and because Lewis has fought more formidable opposition. In the last 11 years, Tyson has fought just one top heavyweight, Evander Holyfield, and lost both times. And yet he has the style and the punch to make all that seem like rhetoric.
Vintage Mike Tyson on his way to the ring. No rope, just a towel.
and black boots, no socks. We'll see vintage Mike Tyson once the fight starts.
The good thing about Tyson, he's filled with sweat. That's what you want your fighter to be, nice and wet before a fight.
As you can see, there is a row of security guards lined up diagonally across the ring. These two fighters will remain separate until the first bell.
I think it was probably Vince McMahon, the genius behind the World Wrestling Federation, who arranged all of this.
There you get a good up-close look at the three-time heavyweight champion, Lennox Lewis. We mentioned he comes in as the favorite. Lewis was hoping for a more partisan crowd tonight since England is participating in the World Cup soccer tournament. Many Brits electing to follow the soccer matches rather than come over to Memphis. So Lewis's supporting cast may not be as strong as he likes.
Yeah, but you go around this city, I've run into so many people speaking with that British accent that you would think there is no World Cup. This town is loaded with the British.
Lennox Lewis really made this fight happen after the fracas at the New York press conference when he was bitten by Tyson. He could easily have gotten out of it if he wanted to. He didn't want to. He sees this as an opportunity to confirm his place as the best heavyweight of the 90s. This is a somewhat illicit fight in the sense that all the big boxing states didn't want it, and all of this security adds to that sense that this is a kind of an outlaw fight.
I think they wanted it. They were just too afraid to accept it, to get it.
You cannot fault the planning. Everything coming off without a hitch as the fighters enter the ring. The heavyweight champion of the world now will go to his half of the ring. Lewis 13-2-1 in championship fights. On this unique occasion for boxing, we have not one ring announcer, but two. Let's send it inside now to Jimmy Lennon Jr. and Michael Buffer.
Ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening to you, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Pyramid in Memphis, Tennessee. It is time for our historic night of boxing and our long-awaited, much-anticipated featured bout of the evening. This bout coming away is brought to you by Lion Promotions, Main Events, and Fight Night, Inc. in association with Prize Fight Promotions, as presented by the undisputed King of Beers, Budweiser.
Tonight here in Memphis, Tennessee, we will turn the page to another chapter in the history book of boxing legends. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event. 12 rounds of boxing for the linear, legitimate, and universally recognized, undisputed heavyweight championship of the world. The three judges assigned to ringside scoring this contest on the 10 points must system are from South Africa, Alfred Bukwana; from Thailand, Anik Hongtongkam; and from Belgium, Bob Logis. And when the bell rings, your referee in charge of the action from the United States, Eddie Cotton.
All right, fans, here we go with the main event of the evening. And now, ladies and gentlemen in attendance and boxing fans joining us around the world, the time for talk is over. The time to fight is here. It's the time we've all been waiting for. Live from the Pyramid in Memphis, it's fight time! Introducing to you first the challenger on my right. He is fighting out of the blue corner, entering the ring wearing his traditional solid black trunks and hailing from Catskill, New York. He weighed in at 234 1/2 pounds with a record of 49 wins, 3 losses, 2 no contests. He has 43 big wins coming by way of knockout. Here is the youngest man ever to win the heavyweight title, currently ranked the #1 contender by the WBC. Please welcome tonight's challenger, the explosive 2-time heavyweight champion of the world, introducing the one and only Iron Mike Tyson.
And fighting out of the red corner, wearing white, trimmed with red letters, and officially weighing 249 1/4 pounds. He captured Olympic gold in 1988. Now, as a professional, he has 39 victories, including 30 knockouts and 3 world titles. He has 2 defeats and a draw, all by way of rematch have been changed to victories, making him one of the few men in boxing history to have virtually defeated every man he has ever faced. Ladies and gentlemen, from London, England, presenting the 3-time world champion, the linear, legitimate, and universally recognized, undisputed heavyweight champion of the world, Lennox Lewis. Now, step forward when the bell rings. Only one will be Destiny's hero. Only one will pass from heavyweight greatness to heavyweight legend. So now there's only one thing left to say. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
We've had 2 announcers. I wonder if we're going to have 2 bells when this fight finally starts.
Well, you don't want to have 2 punchers too cautious. And that's what can happen when you have dynamite punchers. They are both too careful.
We're underway. Lennox Lewis and Mike Tyson for the heavyweight championship of the world. Tyson attacking Lewis, and Lewis comes right back with 3 uppercuts.
It was one initial uppercut that changed everything right now. Lewis unloaded an uppercut with a surprise.
Lewis ripping from down low, and Tyson tries to counter, and Tyson unveils the quick left hook. It's what we expected in the opening moments.
I'm surprised Tyson is able to hit so easy with an uppercut. There was no missing.
Tyson may have been slightly dazed by one of those uppercuts.
May have, no doubt about it.
The man in between Lewis and Tyson, Eddie Cotton, 6'5", 250 pounds. And that's no accident. Cotton handpicked to make sure he could handle the masses inside the ring.
It's going to get real ugly if Lewis keeps clinching the way he's doing.
Well, what is he supposed to do when the smaller man dives into him?
You better fight Tyson. You better fight him. You better fight him good. You start clinching him, you give him all the courage that he needs.
But that's what Holyfield did to him. He clinched him and frustrated him.
It's different because Holyfield is down low. This man is up high.
A good short right hand inside by Lewis.
Now, Tyson is looking at the referee already.
Tyson with a wrap to Lewis's midsection.
That's what Castillo models specialize in. Go to that body, go hard. Then make a man afraid of what's going to happen on top. Go hard to the body.
Emmanuel Stewart, Lewis's trainer, told us Lennox cannot fight backing up. That's when Mike Tyson is most dangerous. Tyson still, though, seems to be the aggressor of the two. Lewis downloads with a big right cross.
That right seemed to land in the back of Tyson's head as he lowered it.
And he's allowed Tyson to stop moving his head now. But this is real ugly. The referee better caution Lewis about the holding.
Tyson right now trying to figure out a way to get in close enough to punch the much taller Lewis.
This man ain't much of a fighter. Just settle down. If you really would see how bad he looks, it would be surprising. Settle down, get yourself together, start working your jab. You took all of the anger and slowed him down already by wrestling and tying him up. Okay? Just take your time. Don't let him fight the fight that he's trying to make you fight. Take your time, get to work at your jab. And you hit him with the right hands and uppercut. Just slow down. Maybe two. If you can get two in, that's fine, okay? But don't let this guy try to tire you out. Relax yourself. I'm telling him. Just stay cool. We hollering at him, okay? Okay, just relax yourself, baby. That was a good round. You won the first round, okay? Double jab like we worked on, step up and control the second jab. You got this every time to get one. Now look, start using your face now. He's trying to load up with his right hands on that. He can try to come on top first and then uppercut, okay? Be fast, baby. Be fast.
Tyson is paying some attention to his corner, which is something I didn't expect.
Let's go. Jabs will be very important throughout the fight. Lewis landed, throwing 23. Tyson throwing 3. And now Eddie Cotton warns Lewis.
That's going to be hard for him to stop doing because Emmanuel Stewart has given Lewis the permission to keep holding and tying him up. He's not doing it out of desperation. He's doing it out of instructions.
Lewis with a big right uppercut.
Now Tyson able to get in a left jab. That's not what you want to see.
Come on, pick it up.
So far, that referee is getting in there quick enough. Lennox Lewis pushed Tyson away that time. That's what you got to do. Push him away.
Lewis seems to be concentrating on firing his right hand with uppercuts. There's another one.
And right afterwards, a hold.
Go to corner. Mike, go to corner, go to corner, go to corner. No, stop holding, you're holding. All right, you got to stop holding. Come on, let's go. All right, let's go. Let's stop holding. All right, go.
Eddie Cotton asserting his power in the ring. Lewis unloads with another right uppercut.
Get up.
Tyson Tyson's only got in one body punch.
Tyson still trying to figure out a way to get in. His footwork and his speed used to be such that he could easily get inside bigger guys.
You know what he's doing? He's just got to wait a couple of rounds. Big guys get tired or quicker than the shorter guys. Just got to wait. Just keep your head moving and wait. There's a second body punch by Mike Tyson.
Lewis pushing Tyson away also for the second time in this round and delivers another solid uppercut. Lennox Lewis, another right hand to the jaw of Mike Tyson.
Okay, look, champion, look, listen to me. Remember I told you, you cannot let this man throw too many jabs at you without you coming back with something, right? Okay, look, you started using your face, but you quit jabbing. You have to be in this man's chest. You understand? Make this a very ugly fight now, okay? I want you right in.
The change. He's slowing down real bad.
35. It's 35 that one, left hand. Keep your hands
Work
up.
the jab. The jab is pumping now. The jab is pumping. That's what you're waiting for, right there.
Keep your hands up, baby. Keep
Fighting
right
the
hand
masterpiece that round. Dude, you're on your way.
Mouthpiece. There you go. There you
You're
go.
on your way, baby.
George, Lennox Lewis has been holding his hands very low. Is he inviting a disaster?
Well, Tyson is real low. You got to put your hands down where your man is, and he's not doing it. It's just that if you're up too high, you can't get that shot in. That's the danger of fighting a taller guy. But he's doing an excellent job of out-jabbing him now and being cautious. Tyson is desperate.
Total punches in round two, according to CompuBox Punch Stat. Lewis 22 of 40 for 55%. Tyson 7 of 35 for 20%.
Going into this fight, everybody thought that Mike Tyson had the stronger jaw. He has certainly shown a strong jaw in this fight because he has taken some solid shots so far.
He's allowing Lennox Lewis to just move around the ring and do whatever he wants. Tyson's got to start throwing his jab to Lennox Lewis's chest and stop trying to hit his head. That's a good body shot by Mike Tyson. If he can get that right hand down there low and make it sound, he's coming on top with it sooner or later.
Ronnie Shields told Tyson to make it an ugly fight. Is that because he thinks that Lewis has had his way from a distance?
Yeah, he wants him to get closer. Don't make it look so pretty standing out there bobbing and weave. Get close, make it raggedy.
Get out. When we met with Shields, he told us he showed Tyson a lot of tapes of himself back in the 80s. There was a lot of head movement. He was all in balance, and he used his jab a lot more.
And you see Lewis is putting his head on, hanging down on the boy's head. This could cause some problem with the referee, and I'm telling you. Excellent jab by Lewis, and a hold. This starts working on the back when a guy keeps leaning on you. Whoa! Music by Tyson.
Tyson comes up with a surging left hook,
and there's a cut on the right eye of Tyson, it appears.
And they butted head there for a second. Lewis got hurt that time also.
Tyson blinking with the blood in his eye. Lewis calmly looking at his corner and saying, I've got it under control.
The referee better get in there. You can't instruct him. You got to just push your way right through.
Coach Rocky in Tyson's corner will go to work on that cut.
Listen to me. Tyson, get his nose. Now look, listen to me.
Okay, Mike, you're
Look,
fine, Mike.
you gotta relax
Give me
yourself.
a towel to wipe him.
Give me a towel, give me a towel, give me a towel.
You're relaxed, you're relaxed.
Okay.
Nice and relaxed. Now, Mike,
Put it
look,
inside the net.
listen to me. Now, look, you let this guy have his way on the outside. You understand? Don't let this man have his way on the outside. You got to be close to this man. You understand? You got to stay close. And when you get close, shoot your uppercut and go to the body with this man. Okay? Use your feet.
He can't deal with nothing coming to him. This fight's gonna be over with if you do. You sit down and get yourself together. You can't just be retent just to do this here and do this here. And shoot that damn uppercut some. The man is tired.
Here's Lennox Lewis's jabs as he has his way from outside. And that first jab there may have caused the cut.
Lewis averaging 25 jabs per round. When he throws that number, he's very dangerous.
Stop in here. Let's go. Stop in here. Stop in here. Come on, let's go.
Let's bring in Harold Letterman to see how he has the fight scored through 3.
Okay, Fran, 29-28, 2 rounds to 1, Lennox Lewis. Fran, I just looked over at Eddie Cotton, and he signaled to me that the cut was caused by a punch, not a headbutt. So if this fight gets stopped because of that cut, Lennox wins on a TKO. In the first round, I thought Mike Tyson did a nice job getting inside, but in rounds 2 and 3, just like you saw right there, Lennox stood on the outside, used that jab, and came up with some nice, solid right uppercuts.
At this point in the fight, the bad boy of boxing is getting spanked by Lennox Lewis, but he is always dangerous.
Lewis following the Holyfield blueprint, pushing Tyson back, leaning on Tyson. And right now, firing that right cross at will.
Tyson gets close. Lennox Lewis changes and stops everything. Folds his chin up.
Now there's blood apparently coming from Tyson's nose.
The difference tonight is too much holding for Tyson. This guy's done too much holding. Lennox Lewis has been holding too much.
George, he's also been punching the crap out of him.
Tyson doesn't even know where he is about now. Better get desperate.
Lennox Lewis told us that no matter what, Ronnie Shields spent 8 weeks teaching Mike Tyson in Maui during his training camp, that as soon as he got hit, he would revert to his natural instincts. And we see less bobbing and weaving and less jabbing from Tyson, and Lewis measuring up.
You know, Tyson is picking up the energy from this crowd. They're pulling for him, and sometimes when you're beaten, that's enough to bring you back in the picture.
You know, there is an arrogance about Lennox Lewis that allows him to drop his hands sometimes, and no matter how hurt and slow Tyson is, he is a dangerous puncher.
Lewis leads on Tyson, connect with a right hand. Tyson goes down, but Eddie Cotton says no knockdown. The force of Lewis on Tyson's back.
Why wasn't that a knockdown, George? Looked like a knockdown to me. Looked like a clear knockdown.
And Eddie Cotton now taking a point away from Lennox Lewis.
It's like this, and you still doing this shit. Don't turn it back in. Get this motherfucker out of here, man. You can fuck around and get caught with some crazy shit. Step it up, the man is finished.
Put them shits together, baby.
You ain't never took it to himself. Get your hands.
You cannot just run in. The right hand is down. When he jab, throw the right hand and no hook behind it. Okay? Just give me a deep breath, champ. Okay? You can give me another round like that.
Stay alert, champ.
There's a right hand.
Oh, but he leans on him too much. That's what
And he leaned on him. But that's not a foul, George,
yeah,
is it?
Leaning. You got look. He's
But why is that a foul?
Back. But he's on his back. He's leaning on his back. He hit him with a good right hand, but what's all the leaning and The referee did a good job.
So far, Lennox Lewis seems to be fighting Tyson and the referee, in my view.
Lewis throwing 39 punches, connecting on 27 for 69% in the fourth round. Tyson 5 of 27.
Tyson is just hoping for one good shot. One good shot.
Emmanuel Stewart told Lennox, keep your hands up.
Here's the guy who's not trying to jab anymore. He's not trying to win points. He's just looking for one shot, and Lewis, that long jab stopped anything.
Come on, let's go, get up.
Eddie Cotton with his hands on both fighters' chests as he pushes them away.
Tyson just can't find the distance. Now he goes leaning on his head again. If he goes down by a shot, the referee is still going to get him.
But Tyson's lowering his head. Tyson looks worn out and tired.
He is.
Once again, Eddie Cotton is what...
Don't do it again. I'm taking another point away. Let's go. Let's go, Mike.
I don't know what the champion is doing to deserve these kinds of calls from Eddie Cotton. A lot of people were concerned about some political calls from the referee, and right now, in my judgment, we're seeing some of it.
Tyson bleeding now from both eyes.
Get up.
Lennox Lewis should never been playing around. He should have had him and jabbing him and pecking him. He should go on and lower the hammer on him and stop playing around with the jab. You got a man hurt, he's waiting to go, finish him out, because you're just going to get yourself in trouble waiting around for a better shot. Tyson is out of the fight. You don't want to let him back in the fight.
Nice job. Step back. Come on, champ. Stay alert. Stay alert.
He blocked that uppercut. Lennox Lewis is playing around too much. Put the right hand on the man.
Hands up, champ. Hands up. Booyah,
When you play around a lot, that's when you get hurt. He's winning his fights hand down. Just won't throw that power shot.
Lewis going almost exclusively to the jab here in this fifth round, looking for opportunities to set up his right. Now Tyson jabs right back.
A big round for Lewis.
Because you got a dead man in front of you, and you still do this. Just let that shit go. This fight is all the way. You're going to fuck around and let him catch you with some shit if you don't watch. This man is dead out there, but he wants to quit. And you out here playing.
No. Give me all you got one round. Just let me go hands. I just want your hands moving this round. Can you stay close to this man and get your hands moving this round for me?
Mike, you go out, you're fine.
No, I need your hands moving. You got too much distance. You let this guy jab the hell out of you. You got to move your hands. Now we got to win this.
Doing this, the man has said that let this shit go. Right hand over top, right hand uppercut.
Stay alert, man.
Any longer this fight going, this man is dangerous. You better get him out of here. Goddamn right. Now, this is ridiculous.
Hands up.
Get this fella.
Here's the right hand that opened the eye of the left eye of Tyson.
Emmanuel Stewart imploring his fighter to take care of business, echoing the sentiments of George Foreman.
Now Tyson should take a round off now. Let this guy move into him a little bit. You don't need to chase a puncher around all night like that.
Lewis again landing at will. In the fifth round, 31 of 50 for 62%. Tyson throwing just 17 shots, landing 6 according to CompuBox.
That right hand hurt Tyson that time. Tyson is hurt. Better do something.
Lewis, another strong overhand right.
Okay, stop pushing, stop pushing.
Lewis is doing, he's covered. He's not dropping his head at all. Keeping his head up high, so Tyson, no matter how hard he throws, he can't reach up there.
That's right.
That's what you don't want to do, is start bending low so that that guy can hit you with those right hands.
Tyson looks very tired.
You better believe he's tired, and he's hurt, but he's a puncher.
Just 19 rounds of boxing for Mike Tyson in his 6 previous fights over the last 5 years. The lack of stamina may be showing up.
Good punch that shook Lewis.
But it's a punch that should never have happened. If he listened to his corner and gets this fight over, he doesn't get punched at all. Lennox Lewis shouldn't be getting punched at all.
I thought that might have been Tyson's best shot so far, but Lewis took it.
Oh, he brought something back too.
Swelling now developing under the left eye of Lennox Lewis.
Now Tyson slows down. Don't charge him. Just slow down. Keep your head moving. Get your win for the second half of this fight. Then you can do better. It's very hot in this arena. Very hot. And the big guys will start to get tired anyway.
Uppercuts at him. He can't get away from him. Keep shooting uppercuts. What is this coming up? 7-8. There's no way to where this man should be in here this long. And the longer he's in here, the dangerous it is. They keep working the jab, but you got to add to it. Every time you hesitate, you start to throw the shot, then you hesitate. Let the stop go. The man ain't that dangerous. Finish the shot, go in.
And come back with your right hand. You understand? Let your hands go. That's all we're telling you to do right now. Everybody can't talk in the corner.
You can do it.
One at a fucking time.
You can do it.
Listen.
Mike. Mike, don't worry about it.
Be fast. You understand me? Fast.
Lewis has been throwing right hands, and Mike Tyson has been eating them.
Guy with a shorter neck, a longer neck would have been on the canvas now. That's short neck of Mike Tyson.
He's built to absorb punishment. There's no doubt about that.
With that 19-inch neck, 230 pounds, and a 5'11" frame, Tyson showing he definitely has a strong chin.
Remember, Tyson has not been able to land one straight right hand yet. It's still there waiting, still there waiting.
Let's bring in Harold Letterman and see how he has the fight score.
Okay, Fred. All I gave was to Mike Tyson was round 1. I mean, 4-1, 1 even, 58, 55, Lennox Lewis. Eddie Cotton just warned Lennox Lewis for using an elbow, or a forearm. But in any case, Lennox Lewis just jabbing him to death. A word about that round 4. The judges can't call it 10-8 because Cotton said no knockdown, so it becomes 10-9. Since he took away a point from Lennox, it becomes 9-9, which is why I have, 1 round even in this fight. So 58-55, Lewis.
All you have to know is that so far, it's all Lewis.
Now, Fran, you're getting a little experience on how they work in the big times. It's jab, jab, and the referee moves in. Now, it doesn't seem like there's anything on Tyson's left hand anymore. The referee, no matter how many times he pushes him away, he just doesn't have the power now.
Lewis, clearly the aggressor inside the ring. using his 250-pound body to exert force on Tyson.
Get out, get out. Come on, get out.
Nobody would have given Tyson this much credit to just stay in there no matter if the fight is not going his way. He stayed in there, so that's a lot more than we expected from Tyson.
Come on.
He's staying in there. He's bleeding. He's bringing the fight to Lewis. Hasn't backed away at all. He can't take too many more of those right hands. Lewis keeps that up. That fight is gone.
Lewis sizing up Tyson.
This is by far the worst beating Mike Tyson has ever taken.
It's batting practice for Lennox Lewis now. One fastball after another. He hits him and then still leans on him. I don't know why.
I wonder what all those people who think of Tyson as the Tyson of 10 and 12 years ago are thinking now as they watch him absorb this punishment almost without any return.
They tune in for a fight and they're getting one. This guy's not quitting. He's not doing anything.
No, you understand? Listen to me. You're fighting for the heavyweight championship again. You understand? Not many people can do that. You understand? Now look, I'm not going to sit out there and just let you do this. You understand? You have to throw your punches. You understand? For God's sake, you have two hands. You understand? Just let your hands go. Yes, you can. No, let your hands go.
Listen,
I want your hands to move.
You done took this guy's best shot.
This guy got nothing for you.
The guy you took his best shot. This guy's getting tired. It's time for you to go to work, brother.
Come on, man.
Go to work.
You train hard.
George, you called it batting practice.
That's what it is. And this is the time maybe your corner should come in and rescue your fighter. It's not going to get any better for him. I have an old warrior that's taking a beating like that, and he doesn't show me anything this round. I'm going to throw the towel in myself. I'm going to keep him on the stool.
Batting practice numbers that Barry Bonds will be impressed with. 31 of 46 for Lennox Lewis in around 67%. Tyson landing just 4 punches, throwing only 17.
Tyson told his corner he'd had enough.
I believe, George, you're right. He might have been looking to end the fight on his stool. He seems virtually useless now, just taking punishment, maybe looking and hoping to bait Lewis into one punch.
Yeah, I would give him the alternative. Look, Tyson, you put up this round or I'm going to stop the fight. I'm not just going to let your brains get beaten out doing nothing.
Mike Tyson's stock is falling faster than Enron.
Oh, good right hand by Mike Tyson. If you don't finish your guy off, that's what you can expect. You're not doing anything to him, so he'll do something to you. There's another good right hand. And I mean, he's aiming to come back on that right hand on top.
Tyson knows he needs a knockout to win. He's never had a knockout past the 7th round. Lennox Lewis tripling Mike Tyson with a big uppercut, and Eddie Cotton separates the fighter.
He's called it a knockdown, thinking that Tyson's knee touched the canvas. I'm not sure I saw that.
I don't think I did either, Larry. Lewis unloaded. Lennox Lewis trying to finish off Mike Tyson with 1 minute left in the 8th round.
Mike Tyson highly motivated to come into this fight, hoping that this fight would redeem not only his career, but his whole life.
Oh, he's doing a good job. He's got heart. You can't take that from him.
Big right hand from Lewis, and Tyson goes down for the 3rd time in his career. 6, 7, 8, 9. It's over. Lennox Lewis cements his legacy as one of the best heavyweight champions of this era.
Nobody should be able, there's no one in the world can take that from Lennox Lewis now. He is no doubt the best heavyweight of all time. What he's done clearly puts him on top of the heap.
He fought a virtually perfect fight, George.
There's no doubt about it. He did everything.
He controlled it from the beginning. He was patient. He never let Tyson get off. Tyson looked old and slow. And you know, George, when you look back at history, at fighters like Tyson, from Dempsey to Marciano to Frazier, all of those fighters retired at the age of 32, and they were near the end of the rope at the age of 30. This type of fighter has to put so much effort into fighting the way he does that it's hard to sustain it. Where the boxer punchers like Joe Louis and Muhammad Ali,
even Lennox Lewis,
and Larry Holmes, all were able to fight closer to their mid-30s. It doesn't require that kind of maniacal conditioning to fight that fight. And we just saw a masterpiece of a boxer puncher in Lennox Lewis tonight.
All I can say is that's right.
Larry, here's the first knockdown. The knees clearly don't touch the ground.
Yeah. Seems to me Eddie Cotton did his best to make this a more even fight than it was. But Lennox Lewis made it an uneven fight.
And when you got the power and the reach, it's hard.
Here's a knockout right on the chin. But that was just the coup de grace. It had been preceded by a tremendous amount of punishment.
George, you talked about power. How's this? 15 of 19 power shots for Lennox Lewis, 79% in the 8th and final round.
I'm telling you, this guy, he's a smooth operator and powerful operator. What can you say but 1, 2, 3, and all that?
Lennox Lewis wanted this fight to prove that he was the best heavyweight of the 90s. This, in effect, was the last big fight of the 20th century.
Let's send it into the ring now for the official particulars.
Ladies and gentlemen, tonight here in Memphis, Tennessee, the legacy of a 3-time heavyweight champion has been embraced as the referee reaches the count of 10 at 2 minutes, 25 seconds of round number 8. The winner by knockout victory, and still the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world, the pride of Great Britain, Lennox Lewis.
So the boxing match itself was anticlimactic, an execution rather than an explosion. And by Monday, water cooler talk would center not so much on the details of Lewis's demolition of an outclassed opponent as on the bizarre post-fight interview conducted by both fighters in the ring with Jim Gray.
Mike, have you changed your opinion now of Lennox Lewis?
Well, no. Believe it or not, I've known Lennox for like 15, 16 years. We've always been friends, but in competition, the best man has to win. We have to do everything we can. I'm happy for him to give me a fight. The payday was wonderful. I really appreciate it. And if you could be kind enough, I'd love to do it again. I think I could beat you if we try one more time.
Mike, what gives you any indication that you could beat him after this performance? And was it a lack of quality opponents going into this that hurt you?
I explained before I needed 2 more fights or 3 more fights to fight him. But I believe if I would have took that route, the fight probably would have never happened. He wouldn't have waited for me. And again, he was just splendid, a masterful boxer. I just take my hand off to you and just please, if you can just give me one more chance, I'd be greatly appreciative.
Are you interested in that at all, based on the way you controlled this fight?
You know, I just wanted to complete my legacy. You know, everybody was saying that, you know, this fight is going to count on my legacy. So I just wanted to prove to the people that, you know, I'm the best fighter in the world, on the planet. No guy tests this, man.
Prove that right now. You were quite annoyed. You had some very derogatory things to say about Mike coming into this fight. You said you had to win this fight to clean up boxing.
Do you feel you've accomplished that?
Well, I showed boxing, you know, who's the best in the world. I went out there and showed them I'm a pugilist specialist. I can adapt to any style. And, you know, he showed me one style that a lot of people didn't think I was going to be able to deal with. But I was able to deal with it. A lot of people thought he was going to get away from my jab, but nobody gets away from my jab.
Mike, you behaved tonight. Everybody.
Biggest fans, brother.
Manny Stewart, say that again.
I was telling Mike, I'm still one of his biggest fans. He's given me so many thrills, man. You know, go back to Roderick Moore, you remember?
My friend Roderick.
Yeah, I know, it's a long time back.
Mike,
and you've given all of us a lot of excitement. Most exciting heavyweight in the last 50 years.
Thank you very much. It was just beautiful. I'm just so happy you gave me a chance. Nobody wanted to give me a chance. Don King didn't want to give me a chance. I'm just happy someone gave me a chance.
I don't know what it is, you still can punch.
Thank you very much.
Champ and Mike, how sorry are you guys that this fight did not occur many years ago when you were at your best and probably you weren't quite as old either?
Well, you know, the funny thing about that is, you know, heavyweights mature at different times. I would say Mike Tyson matured at 19. Nothing was standing in his way at that time. He ruled the planet at that time. But I'm like fine wine. I come along later on, and you know, I learned my art, and I went along, just took my time, and I came along and just ruled. I'm ruling now.
Mike, are you sorry this fight didn't take place years ago?
It wasn't meant to be. I've known Lennox ever since he was 16, 15 years old. I have mad respect. Everything I said was in proposition for promoting the fight. He knows I love him and his mother, and I know if he thinks I don't have respect and don't love him, he's crazy.
So you're saying a lot of the behavior, Mike, is just to sell tickets, and that doesn't represent your true feelings?
Well, he knows who I am, and he knows I'm not disrespectful. I respect this man as a brother. He knew me ever since his friend Bernie and Cuss were together, and he knows I have the much respect for him. Like I said before, he's a magnificent, a prolific fighter, and he should continue fighting. I would just love for him to give me another shot.
How important was it for you tonight, Mike, to come out here and be a sportsman and behave in the ring?
Oh, no, it was very, but I said I love and respect him too much to do anything disrespectful to him, and he knows that. And for him to think that is absolutely crazy.
About 30 minutes after that surreal piece of theater, in an interview I did myself in Tyson's dressing room, the beaten star seemed to have changed his mind about a rematch.
Mike, I want to start by saying that I've never been more impressed with you as a sportsman than was the case tonight. You fought a clean and honorable fight, and you were utterly sportsmanlike in the ring afterward. Were you conscious all night of the fact that you were on your best behavior?
Not really, but he's a gentleman. I knew going in this fight I wasn't fighting a dirty fighter, and the reason I conducted myself like that because the fighters I fought, Bolter, Norris, and Holyfield, I believe they fought me a little dirty, and I just sometimes I overdid it sometimes and took it to the next level and made it so apparent and overt that I had the reputation of a dirty fighter, and it's okay. You know, I've been through a lot with Don King and these guys, and it just really transformed my behavior and my conduct. But things are going well now, and he is fought a wonderful fight. This guy there's no way I could ever be. He's just too big and too strong, and he just fought he's a very consummate fighter, and I just appreciate him giving me a shot to fight for the title.
That's honorable respect. I think we all knew that in order to beat him, you would have to be fast, you would have to throw combinations, you would have to go to the body and do all the things that made you so great back in the late 1980s. Why weren't you able to do it?
He had hurt me early, and I was just trying to keep the pressure. And he has kept me hurt from the early to the end of the fight. But he was fighting great, and he just basically wore me down.
Is his right hand the biggest punch you've ever felt?
No, I just couldn't see it. You know what I mean? I just couldn't see it. I could take a great shot. I just couldn't see the punch.
Mike, there's a great moment in the ring after the fight when during the post-fight interview you very tenderly reached out and wiped blood from Lennox's cheek while he was answering a question. Deep in your heart, do you feel as though he's your friend?
No, I've been friends with him for 15 years. You know what I mean? We're just like, you know, I fly pigeons, right? And this is a good equation. These pigeons live with each other for 10 to 15 years, right? But when I throw feed down, they kill each other to get it. And it's the same way with fighters. We love and respect each other, but we're like mercenaries. We need that money. You know, we need to be the best. You know, I mean, money means nothing. I mean, money means nothing sometimes, but sometimes greatness is even more important than money.
The contract calls for a rematch, although Lennox has the right to take another fight before doing so. If, in fact, the rematch takes place, what will you do differently?
I don't know. He fought great, man, and I don't really think I could beat that guy if he continues to fight like that. But like I said, I'll fight him again, and I'll fight him with all the great aptitude to win. I won't never quit, but I'll fight to beat him.
If you were him, and you've been at that pinnacle, knowing what he's accomplished now and the joy he must feel at getting this victory, would you consider retiring?
It's basically up to the fighter. The fighter is basically how he feels. You know what I mean? If he wants to retire, he should retire. Real fighters really never retire. You know, we hang out to the last moment. At least I do. You get as much as you can, and you get your body beat as little as possible. But you know what I mean? You try to get as much as you can out of your body.
One last question. Even though you were beaten, did it feel good? Was it satisfying to be back at the top of the division, in with the best, instead of fighting guys like Nielsen and Francis and Savarese?
I'm just happy to be talking to you, even though you said things, and I know this whole game is basically a political beast, and I'm just happy to be talking with you, Bobby Ches, Jim Brown. It was just happy seeing you guys across the table. Hey, baby, be a good boy, okay? You're going to talk to these guys one day.
This is Miguel Tyson.
Yeah, he's going to be a great fighter one day. I want him to be a fighter. You know?
He's already throwing punches with the right hand, Mike.
Come on, be a good boy. You'll be nice, okay? Say hi to Jim Lampley.
Hey, we were happy to have you back too, Mike.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much.
That last shot revealing to you Tyson's 1-month-old son, Miguel, whom he held in his arms throughout the unusual interview. Tyson's chastened post-fight behavior engendered plenty of sympathy, mine included, as you saw. But former Tyson manager John Horn made a salient point a couple of days later when he was heard to ask, how do you think Mike would have acted if he had gotten lucky and won the fight? Larry, was the sudden good guy stuff from Mike an epiphany of some sort, or just another con job?
Big news. Mike Tyson behaved like a human being. Maybe Lennox Lewis' tough love did it. Or maybe it's the start of a new big con. The humble, low testosterone Mike Tyson, who no longer wants to eat his opponent's children, or stomp on our testicles, or grab every woman. He'll do whatever it takes. He is a survivor.
So where does Mike go now?
Antarctica would be good. But coming off an event that generated up to $150 million, he'll get more chances if he wants them. Fight a few more setups to convince his hardcore fans that he has, yes, rededicated himself. But the sand has run out of his hourglass. At 36, he's ancient for his type of aggressive fighter. The only major fight he can win now is his $100 million lawsuit against Don King.
An entirely pertinent point, because one fight which has been mentioned for Tyson is a possible third matchup with Evander Holyfield, and since Holyfield is promoted by King, a settlement would be necessary for that. Well, if the striking post-fight role reversal was one measure of the totality of Lewis's victory, here's yet another. CompuBox PunchStat numbers showed Lewis landing nearly 4 times as many punches as his challenger. In the area of jabs, Lewis landed more than half of his, held Tyson to 15%. But the biggest dominance came in the area of power punches. Lennox Lewis landing 68% of his bombs. Translation, at will. Joining us now in the studio are the architects of this complete annihilation, Lennox Lewis himself, and his trainer ever since his first loss 9 years ago, Emmanuel Stewart. Lennox, I wonder if you were surprised at how rapidly your arsenal seemed to take away Tyson's will and commitment, or was that the opponent you had expected to see?
I think both. You know, a lot of sparring partners find it difficult after a couple of days to get away from my jab. So I realized how it affects those type of boxers. And then, you know, Mike Tyson hasn't done anything to really prepare for a boxer like Lennox Lewis.
Manny, what was the plan coming in for how to deal with the expected Tyson aggression?
Exactly what Lennox did. He went out the first round and established that he was not afraid of Mike. He stood toe-to-toe with him, and it was kind of like an alley fighting type situation for about a minute. And then after that, he let Mike fight himself. And Lennox just grabbed him, tied him up, diffused him, and then at the end of the first round, Mike was a little more fatigued, and also he had a little respect for Lennox's punching power. But then Lennox came back the second round and went into his battle plan, which was to make Mike fight at a distance where Mike couldn't fight. And once he got inside of that distance, Lennox shut him down and pushed him right back out there again and kept working with his jab until he systematically destroyed it.
Did Buster Douglas create the blueprint for this? And did you show this fight to Lewis at any time?
Lennox himself was looking at the Buster Douglas fight just prior to us departing to go to the arena. But
really,
the thing, yes, and the thing that was interesting is that Buster carried the fight to Mike behind a jab, not just alley fight. Lennox did it, but I reminded Lennox of the fact that you punch a lot harder than Buster Douglas.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was the main thing. I said you punch a lot harder, and physically you're a much stronger man.
Before the fight, 2 weeks before, in fact, Panama Lewis came onto the scene, notorious character, barred from boxing. What significance did that have to you, and how did you deal with that?
Panama Lewis is primarily known in boxing as a guy who brings in a lot of illegal substances, so to say, and does a lot of illegal things in fights. So as a result, I only interpreted that he was brought in possibly to do something illegal. And so as a result of that, I led the commissioner and everyone to believe that I would accept a urinalysis, a drug test before the fight, which meant they could do that and then take the illegal drugs, and Mike would be fighting with that possible. So to prevent that possibly happening, at the very last minute, I told the commissioner I would not accept that, and I changed my mind, and I insisted on the drug test being taken after the fight. So that way, whatever was in Mike Tyson's system would have to show up. And they were, I think, kind of confused. It was a big, big argument over that. And finally, we won, and I think that kind of neutralized anything that Panama could have possibly did.
Okay, now you're in the fight, and almost right from the get-go, it seems, first that the referees, in trying to establish order, maybe because he's afraid that of an outburst, and he's doing all the talking to you. And then it seemed like you were fighting two men.
Yeah, I definitely had another person against me. I was shocked that he was actually saying that I was holding, because, you know, holding was like I would be in trouble and I would actually be holding his arm. But I was just making sure that he wasn't able to use his left arm, because I noticed in previous fights, he usually comes up with an elbow or something. So I didn't want to be fall prey to any of those kind of shots. So I kind of held his hand there, and that's the only thing I did. He was holding my left arm, and the referee came in and warned us. I was really surprised, but for a lot of good fighters, that can interrupt your focus. But for me, I was very focused on Mike. I didn't even let the ref bother me. I wasn't even looking at him. At one point in the fight, he said, "Look at me, look at me," and I still didn't look at him. I was really focused on Mike.
Well, Lennox and Emmanuel, let's take a look, actually, at the activities of referee Eddie Cotton, which caught our eye during the fight. And we'll ask both of you to comment on this sequence of events, which suggested, as Larry pointed out, that Cotton's entire focus was on you, Lennox, while he paid no attention to whatever transgressions Mike might have committed. This is in round number 2, and already a warning to Lennox.
I thought he was breaking this kind of scene. I didn't even understand this call. I didn't even pay attention to him. I was just worried about Mike at that point. And this one, he said I hit him when he was down. At that point, you can't really argue with the ref, because it just wastes your energy, so you still got to stay focused.
Did you fear that he was trying to steer the fight in Mike's favor?
I definitely realized that he was against me, and I figured, okay, maybe he's a bit paranoid. Everybody's a bit paranoid, especially surrounding this fight, and he doesn't want to let anything go.
What is that warning right there?
That warning was a push-off, and I don't know what he was doing. At this point, I was very concerned because I threw a punch, and I thought he was going to warn me again for hitting him when he was down.
Yeah, and look, he wasn't even down. It was like he was giving Mike Tyson a chance to recover when he was about to be knocked out.
Yeah, I don't think he liked me.
He administered a standing 8 count, which we clearly made clear in the rules that there is no standing 8 count. If you have to interfere, the fight is over with. I thought that a couple other times there he interfered once again, and even you noticed the manner and demeanor of him, it was really personal against Lennox, and you could see that. Never that he won Mike. In the first one, it was, you could see Mike in the clinch just telling him, say he's holding me, and the referee pushes Lennox off, and then does what Mike tells him.
So you had a lot of extraneous factors to worry about, Emmanuel. We're going to take a look on tape right now at how animated you became in the 3rd and 4th rounds, trying to get Lennox to go ahead and get the business of the fight over with. Here's your performance.
He can't deal with nothing coming to him. This fight's gonna be over with if you do. You sit down and get yourself together. You still doing this shit. Don't turn it back in. Come on. Get this motherfucker out of here, man. You can fuck around and get caught with some crazy shit. You got a dead man in front of you, and you still doing this. Just let that shit go. This fight is over with.
So, Emmanuel, was that about the referee and your fear that he was trying to take the fight away from Lennox?
Yes, I was more concerned at this point about the referee, to be very honest. I never wanted to let Lennox know that because it would get him more agitated. But I could see that the referee was like leaning towards trying to find any excuse to disqualify Lennox. And the longer that the fight went on, I think the more of the opportunity. And I wanted Lennox to try to end it as much as possible. But I didn't realize that in the 4th round, he caught Mike with a very good right hand that really hurt his wrist, which we saw later on.
And to put more emphasis on this, Jim, there were conspiracy theories in midweek before the fight that just such a scenario could unfold for various political reasons. And to see it as brazen as we saw it was quite remarkable.
Distracting to you, Lennox?
It wasn't really distracting to me because I said, you know, we're in it. You know, these are my judges, and I didn't realize the referee was so one way.
Did it make you nervous that Manny was so agitated and seemed so eager for you to go ahead and get it done?
No, I was really relaxed. I was so relaxed for this fight. You know, I started to worry for myself. I was worried, am I too relaxed? You know, and then when I seen Emmanuel so animated in the corner, and I'm saying, he's really hyperactive. So, but I was still cool. I was still cool. I felt really relaxed and positive. So,
let's talk about the future now. I know you're still basking in the victory, the one that you yourself called a defining moment, and really you risked almost like your reputation for your entire career on one fight, which is a pretty bold thing to do. Everybody says, well, it would be the right time story-wise, romantically, for Lennox Lewis to walk off into the sunset. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts is I'm definitely listening to everybody, and you're right, I am still basking in the victory. And, you know, I haven't really decided. You know, in some sense, I'm saying the people still haven't seen the best of me.
Well, it's the perception of a lot of general media and some of us in boxing media, too, that for the moment you've cleaned out the division. But I know there are a couple of fights down the road, and one question people have asked is, would you consider fighting young Vladimir Klitschko, who seems to be emerging as the heir apparent?
I would consider fighting anybody, you know.
Well, the two names that come up are Klitschko, because there'd be a lot of money in it, particularly from foreign television.
So, yeah.
And perhaps Kirk Johnson, if he wins that version of the title against John Ruiz in July, because he's a Canadian and it might be a big event up there.
I think both boxers are great boxers, and you know, there would be great fights for me, but I would knock them both out.
Lennox, Emmanuel, thank you both for coming in and spending time with us, and congratulations again on a great performance.
Thank you.
Our privilege.
And historically significant bout, Lennox Lewis lays claim to an entire era. Lennox Lewis never had that unification matchup with Riddick Bowe, but he did beat Evander Holyfield really twice, and has now finished off what was left of Iron Mike Tyson. Let's pick it up in round one, the only close round, fellas. So much pressure at the start. We could feel it, and you know what? They're human. They could feel it.
Yeah, they really could. As they came out, you had to wonder what they were thinking. There was a lot of pressure, both men with a lot on the line. In the first round, Tyson had probably his best round of the fight and maybe won this very close round. He jabbed his way in there a moment ago, landed a couple of good left hooks. Lewis landed a few good uppercuts. Those uppercuts were a portent of things to come, and there's the straight right hand by Lewis. But round one, he stood and fight with Tyson, but Tyson did pretty well. Round two, however, was when Lewis really started to pick up the pace. There's the jab. That would become the dominant punch in this fight for Lennox Lewis. And here comes the uppercut. That would be the second most dominant punch. That along with the straight right hand. And Tyson was very effective with those uppercuts, got Tyson's attention early.
By the time we got to round four, Max, Mike Tyson is bleeding and the uppercut is whistling.
By the fourth round, this fight was a mismatch. Physically, you could see it. Lennox was much bigger. Tyson could not get inside the jab. There you see Lennox Lewis landing a right hand. And by the way, folks, Lennox Lewis's right hand is delivered either over the top, like you see right there, or underneath from the uppercut, just about as hard as any punch was ever thrown in the history of boxing. He landed it repeatedly against Mike Tyson. Another right hand. I mean, Tyson absorbed a lot of those right hands. He couldn't get inside the jab. Now in the fourth, Eddie Cotton deducted a point from Lennox Lewis for, I guess, holding and hitting and pushing Tyson down. But what it looked like to me was Tyson was hurt with a right hand. Lennox put a little pressure on Mike Tyson's back, and Tyson willingly went down. I think Cotton was so concerned with not being unfair to Mike Tyson that he bent over backwards and overcompensated, you know, against Lennox Lewis. By the 6th round, I mean, this fight, it was just a matter of time. When's it going to end? Lewis controlling the space, playing with Tyson with his hands down by his side. You'd think dangerous against a puncher of Tyson's caliber, but there you see, right hand all the way down. Tyson's corner imploring him. Ronnie Shields, look, his hands are down. Throw the hook, throw the right hand. Tyson could not get close enough. When he did get close, he got whacked with uppercuts.
By round 8, Tyson had that Tokyo Buster Douglas look, Al.
Yeah, he really did. He looked like a very lethargic fighter who couldn't go into later rounds, which we suspected beforehand. That's one of the few right hands to the body that Lennox Lewis threw. Actually, neither fighter went to the body very much in this fight. Again, the uppercut, that became a theme in this fight as Lennox Lewis started to get Mike Tyson in trouble. At this point in the 8th round, he went to his knees, and the end was near.
Yeah, I thought I heard him say, Al, a couple rounds earlier, I think going into the 6th, I have nothing. I'm not sure, but it sounded like that to me, and he really didn't have anything. Lennox Lewis certainly did. Look, this was typical Lennox Lewis against typical Mike Tyson of recent years. It's a predictable result, and there's an image a lot of people will be happy to see, and some people won't be, and there's a great heavyweight champion.
Tyson went down from an uppercut right-hand combination first, and then after that, it was one right hand, kind of like that right hand he'd used to deck Hasim Rahman, a clean shot, and Eddie Cotton, the referee, counted to 10. So no controversy. Nothing to do with any of the things that people were worried about at the start of this fight. Lennox Lewis knocks out Mike Tyson in the 8th round, knocks him down twice in round number 8. It was a mismatch as far as the punches were thrown as well. Again, you may have given Mike Tyson the first round. I gave Tyson the first round, but it was close after that. Guys, I don't think you can give him a round. You fight, you go to the punch stats, you take a look at what was thrown and what was landed. It's all Lennox Lewis. But we did wonder, while the fight was on, we wondered, could Mike Tyson land that one shot?
Well, and he didn't, and part of the reason was this number, the jabs that Lennox Lewis threw. Landing 53% of your jabs is terrific, and Mike Tyson not going to land many jabs, but he couldn't jab his way in effectively. That jab was the dominant punch for Lewis to control the fight.
Yeah, and you can see Tyson tried to 134 jabs a lot. Nothing landed hardly, and punches thrown. Lennox threw more shots, landed at a higher percentage, landed more cleanly, landed the bigger shots. This fight was a total statistical mismatch, and it was a mismatch in the ring.
Manny Stewart, the trainer for the heavyweight champion, says this is vindication.
Vindicates Lennox Lewis in a lot of ways, and he's beaten every fighter of his era, never dodged anyone. And when you look back at him, as I've said before, his history record is going to be phenomenal. And I think now there's really nothing he can do if he just wants to make a mandatory and fight Chris Bird. But he's proven himself to be the dominant heavyweight in boxing now for the last 10 years. I don't think there'll be a rematch. I mean, it's not even worth getting into. I mean, it was a total mismatch after a certain point. The only time that Mike was in the fight was when the referee was taking points from Lennox, giving them to him. But other than that, he wasn't in the fight after the first round.
And Lennox Lewis is the new age athlete. Look at this, 34 and older for heavyweights. Lennox Lewis now 6-1, and you know, right now he's standing on top of the world. It's not as if, well, he's barely hanging on, he's just staying with the game. No, Lennox Lewis is still the king at the age of 36. Mike Tyson, give him credit for this, Al. He said before the second Holyfield bout, I always take my beating like a man. Give me that. He took his beating all right. Lennox Lewis doled out the beating.
Yeah, and Mike Tyson was gracious afterwards. We do have to give him credit for that. You know, the thing I hope doesn't happen is that revisionist historians look at this and say, oh, well, you know, he beat a diminished Mike Tyson. Yes, he did, but they do that a lot with Lennox Lewis. After he beat Galata, they said, oh, he wasn't so good. After he beat Akinwande, well, he held a lot. He beat Michael Grant too young. He beat David Tua. He was one-dimensional. The fact of the matter is, Lennox Lewis fights everybody they put in front of him, and he has fought the best in his division, as Emmanuel Stewart said, and he deserves acclaim now as heavyweight champion.
And by the way, you have to be careful against David Tua and Mike Tyson. And he had an 8th round stoppage in this fight against a Tyson who came in looking like he was ready to win, although he was gassed by the second round.
People get fooled by Lennox Lewis's style. They think of him as a cautious boxer. He is, but he can punch as hard as anyone in the history of boxing with that right hand, including Foreman, Shavers, Mike Tyson, anybody. He's a tremendous puncher. And, you know, I said before this fight, should Tyson win, I'd put him in the half-dozen heavyweight champions of all time. And people were like, what are you talking about? He's to be the only big fight Tyson ever won, at least since the Spinks fight. This is what I'm talking about. It's all about how much I think of Lennox Lewis. This guy has totally cleaned out the division. He's beaten Evander Holyfield twice now. He just totally dominated Mike Tyson. The young guys like Grant and David Tua and Hasim Rahman. In the past, they're almost 10 years ago, guys like Ray Mercer and Razor Ruddock and recently Andrew Galata. He's beaten everyone they put in front of him, and yes, he's been knocked out twice. In this day and age of 240-pound heavyweights, that can happen. He's avenged both losses by knockout, and that graphic was great, over 34. He has the highest winning percentage in title fights of any heavyweight in history. Just like Barry Bonds hits 37 home runs, the 73 home runs at the age of 37, Lennox Lewis is still going strong at the age of 36, a great heavyweight champion.
Well, the judges were not a factor. Neither man has ever lost a decision. You go out on your shield with these two fighters, and Tyson did indeed. And now this is third straight title bout loss. Of course, he had two to Evander Holyfield, and now to Lennox Lewis, and there was no question about this. Eddie Cotton, by the way, took away a point from Lennox Lewis. Is that ironic? We've talked about Lennox. He did it to David Tua. He did it to Michael Grant. He will hold and hit. He did it here. I thought Eddie Cotton did an outstanding job.
Well, you know, the interesting thing about this fight is, and it speaks to probably part of the reason why Lennox Lewis won, he was also the rougher fighter in there. I don't know if I'd go so far as to say dirty, though there were a couple of spots where he maybe bent the rules, but they said it, when you fight a bully, you need to bully him. The reason Evander Holyfield beat Mike Tyson was after that first round, Tyson hit him late, Holyfield hit him right back again. Lennox Lewis asserted himself in many different ways in this fight, and that was one of them.
Mike Tyson had a glorious era from 1985 to 1988. We wondered if he could recapture the magic. As it turns out, he could not, at least not against Lennox Lewis. Just moments ago, Jeremy Schaap talked to the former heavyweight champion of the world.
Look at Jeremy. Say hi to Jeremy.
How you doing? What's your name?
His name is Miguel.
Miguel?
He's going to be the next champ.
How you doing, man?
He's going to be the next champ.
Miguel, what'd you make of the fight?
Daddy had a bad day at the office. I'm just glad he's alive to come and play with me.
Mike, at what point did you think you couldn't win this fight?
Oh, man, I don't know. He had me hurt from the beginning. He just kept me hurt all through the fight. Oh, baby, be nice. And he was just fighting constantly. And man, he was wonderful tonight.
You know, he said quite often that Mike Tyson had never seen a fighter like Lennox Lewis before. Is that now something you can say that he was right about?
Well, I don't know if I've never seen a fighter like that, but tonight he fought magnificently, and he was the best fighter tonight.
Where do you go from here, Mike?
I don't know, man. I might just fade into Bolivian, you know what I mean? I don't have nowhere to go and nothing to do, you know what I mean? I just go fly my pigeons on the roof in New York, you know?
You're not going to fight again?
I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm just going to chill out with my children and fly my birds. I'm just, listen, I'm not in your guys' world. I'm a street guy, you know what I mean? I don't have to ever worry about seeing your guys, like worrying about your guys judging me or saying anything about me because it really doesn't touch my bases or my nucleus. So I'm just happy to be talking to you, and I'm just happy that you're doing well. You know, I'm sure your father would be proud of you. And I have a great deal of respect for you, and I'm glad just to be having this interview with you.
Thank you, Mike. Considering how dominant Lennox was tonight, do you think you deserve a rematch? You are contractually, you are contractually entitled to one.
Well, like I said before, I talked to Shirley Finger, if the price is right, I'll fight a lion, you know what I mean? I want my children to have the same lifestyle I have and live the same lifestyle I live, so yeah, I'll fight anyone.
After the first round, it appeared that you had won that first round. Did you think you won it on all rounds? Did you think you had this fight won?
No, because in the first round, he really, believe it or not, he hurt me in the first round, and he had kept me hurt.
When did he hurt you in the first round?
I wish I knew, and I would tell you. But yeah, he hurt me in the first round.
You fought a lot of good fighters over the years. You fought Evander Holyfield twice. Is this the toughest opponent you ever had?
Well, listen, tonight he was the toughest. He was victorious, and a loss is a loss, and you really can't equate who's tougher from a loss. You just know you got your butt kicked, and you can't say, well, he kicked my butt better than he kicked my butt. I don't know. It's just, I'm just happy that he did a wonderful job and he didn't kill me in there.
Mike, you were very gracious. You have been very gracious after this fight. Has this in some way been a transformation for you? So what's happened this evening?
Hey, nothing's been a transformation. I have respect for all fighters. I don't really say anything bad about fighters. I'm just a good salesman, and I just want everybody to be happy, and it's glad that both of us left the ring healthy.
The knockout punch, from your perspective, what was it like?
I couldn't see the punches coming. My eyes was pretty closed, and like I said, he basically just wore me down. He was too big and strong.
You said before the fight that you didn't respect him. Now you're saying you do respect him. How much do you respect him?
Listen, I always had a great deal of respect for Lennox. Me and Lennox has been friends, ironically, since we were both 15 and 16 years old. I've known Lennox before anybody in boxing known Lennox. And this is just what competitive people do. This is what they say. This is what they talk. Oh, boy, I'm so sorry. We're in a hurt business. And, you know, in this business, people get hurt sometimes. But we're not violent individuals. Most fighters probably never had a street fight. You know what I mean? But, you know, this is just what we do. This is a science. This is a discipline. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a tough guy or a brutal guy to be masterful in this particular discipline.
He said, Mike, that he wanted to hurt you because you had bit him back on January 22nd.
I mean to hurt him, but, you know, we're in the mix of fight and everything goes, you know what I mean, love and war.
Were you doing all those wild things from January through the press conference most recently to sell tickets?
I did a good job, and I did a good job, and I'm just happy, you know what I mean, that we fought and it's over, and that if it's possible we could do it again and get another payday, you know what I mean? Because it's really, this is a beautiful sport and it's been great to me.
You seem very much at peace with yourself right now, much more so than in most opportunities I've had to speak to you recently. Are you more at peace right now?
No, listen, I have a great responsibility. I have to take care of all these children. I have a different stage in my life right now. You know what I mean? I don't know if I'm getting soft or not, but, you know, I used to love taking care of my children and flying my birds. I have a different aura in my life right now.
Was there a particular moment during the fight, Mike, when you realized that you weren't going to win the fight?
Well, no, I just kept fighting until the fight was over. You know what I mean? Because anything's possible.
When did you realize how good Lennox Lewis is?
Well, when the bell first rang, he was just fighting magnificently.
Mike, thanks very much. Anything else you want to say tonight?
No, I'm just, I'm thankful all my fans came out. I'm sorry if they're disappointed. I really appreciate the support. And Memphis has been magnificent. And I thank Lennox Lewis for giving me a shot.
Mike, thanks very much. Former heavyweight champion Mike Tyson.
Jeremy, thank you. He could hardly be any more gracious, even bringing up the late Dick Schaap
Hey, what you want? He took his beating in the Douglas, Holyfield. Now Lewis fights like a man, and he's always a gracious loser.
We hope to speak to Lennox Lewis a little later on. That'll do it from here in Memphis. Let's go back to the studio.
Thank you, guys. Mike Tyson, very eloquent in defeat. And as he lays there on the campus, we will hear from the man who knocked him down to stay in a few.
Former champion Mike Tyson. Let's hear from the heavyweight champion of the world, Lennox Lewis, with Jeremy Schaap. Jeremy?
Brian, thanks very much. An absolutely convincing victory for Lennox Lewis, retaining his 2 championship belts. Lennox, does this make up for the bite?
Absolutely. I said that I was going to discipline Mike Tyson in the ring, and that's what I aimed to do. I went out there and did it. You know, I got off to a sticky start, but then, you know, Emmanuel Stewart told me to settle down, so I settled down. And after that, it was just showing the world that I was a pugilist specialist.
What were your thoughts in that first round that it appeared you lost?
You know, I just wanted to show him that I wasn't scared of him. He was trying to intimidate me and trying go for the early knockout, but you know, we were basically getting used to each other, and it always takes one round, and that was the first round to do that.
Mike Tyson once famously said that everyone has a plan until they are hit. Did you ever feel the full force of his power?
You know, he hit me with a good left hook one time, but you know, I curved that off, and I came back with my own punches. I just wanted to go in there and hit him first. His plan was to come in there and hit me, but I wanted to definitely hit him.
Lennox, at what point did you realize that I can hurt Mike Tyson and he can't hurt me?
I think it was like the 3rd round, 4th round. You know, Emmanuel Stewart told me to step to him and, you know, put him out, get rid of him. He's slow. And I just wanted to soften him up with my jab a bit more, and that's what I did.
In the 4th round, you had him down on the canvas. Eddie Cotton said that it was a push down. Do you think it was a knockdown?
Yeah, it was definitely a knockdown. You know, Eddie Carton, the ref, it seemed like he was working against me. He said he took a point off because I hit him when he was down. And I was saying, no, I didn't hit him when he was down. But, you know, the ref is in there to control everything. But, you know, I had a lot of things working against me, but I was able to come through.
Lennox, and then take me to the 8th round and the knockout punch, the whole sequence.
Well, you know, I was throwing my jab, and, you know, it didn't seem like he could get away from my jab, so I was just, you know, putting that probing jab out there and seeing which way he was going to duck, and he really was ducking to my right. So I threw a looping right hand and caught him straight on the chin and put him out.
You said you were going to win this fight. You said you were going to win it by knockout. You said you would win it easily, but there always has to be some kernel of doubt in the back of your mind. When did you erase that kernel of doubt?
Well, when I was starting to get to him, when I was seeing that, you know, I was cutting him open with my jabs when his nose was bleeding, you know, that just inspired me more. And the Memphis fans were great. They were cheering for me, and a lot of fans out there cheering for me, and, you know, I felt good in there.
The significance of this victory in your storied career?
Definitely a defining moment for Lennox Lewis's legacy.
Do you feel you've silenced your critics?
Absolutely. You know, what else is there for me to prove? I've proved everything.
Did Mike fight well enough to deserve a rematch?
Well, you know, I need to go and look at the tape and see what happens, but, you know, my main thing is to show this sweet science of the sport, and that's what I went out there and did, hit him and not allow him to hit me and make it very difficult for him to hit me, and, you know, I definitely have to go look at this fight afterwards.
That's not quite an answer. Emmanuel said he doesn't deserve a rematch.
Well, you know, it depends what the people want. If the people want to see it again, if they still can't believe it, I'll definitely do it again. You're right. Lennox Lewis is forever.
Lennox, congratulations. Lennox Lewis now 42-1 in his distinguished career.
Jeremy Champ, thank you. Al Bernstein, Max Kellerman joining me. Even when you're rich, you want to get paid. He wouldn't mind doing that again, and he's going to box. He's a pugilist specialist, and he brings the hammer down.
Yeah, and you know what I thought was interesting? Number one, he did a great job of, he'd be a great politician, actually, selling the possibility of a rematch. One thing we can take away from that interview that Jeremy did, Lennox Lewis doesn't look like a man who's ready to retire, even though this would be an opportune time to do it, and he's performing very well, certainly, so nobody needs to rush him into retirement, but it's clear we'll see Lennox Lewis again.
Max, you often point out just how difficult it is to clear out any division at any point in the history of the game.
Yeah, very few fighters have done it, and Lennox Lewis, maybe 1 or 2 more fights, will have done it. He's a great, historically great heavyweight champion. He proved it again tonight. He was too big and too good for Mike Tyson.
Lennox Lewis, the heavyweight champion of the world. Perhaps Chris Bird could be next, but again, this was the threat. Manny Stewart said he's the last one of the era that could challenge, potentially,
those
Lennox
2 belts
Lewis.
are not important. He is the real heavyweight champion of the world, with or without any belts.
That'll do it from Memphis. Let's go back to the studio.
Thank you, guys. More live coverage coming up from the fight from Brian Kenny on the big fight out in Memphis.
Lennox Lewis did not rule it out. He said, you want to see that again? I'll give it to you again. So for the benefit of those who did not see this fight, Al, is there any reason why we should see these two go at it again?
Let me tell you something. You'd need a better spin doctor than my good friend James Carville to convince people that there should be a rematch. Mike Tyson was dominated in this fight really from the beginning to the end, and even he admitted in his interview with Jeremy that he was hurt from the first round on and kept getting hurt. So there's really no reason to want to see these 2 fighters in the ring again.
I know, Max, you've said before that Mike Tyson could go on